Welcome, everyone. The echo going already?
That's my computer, yeah.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay, welcome, everyone. First planning board meeting of 2024, January 11th. A note to everyone that we are here live, obviously, but we also are broadcasting and recording. The first item on our agenda tonight is a special item. Usually we start at 7:15. We are starting at 6:30 today. I will call the meeting to order at 6:30. Margie, do you need to call your meeting to order in case?
I don't know who's here. I can see that Ash is here, but I don't know if
I'm on. We can, Margie, I'm not sure how many folks from the Sustainability Committee are there, but we've got Kara, myself, Ashland Bylaws, Margie, I think is in the room from the Sustainability Committee as well.
Oh, Marge, you have to pull this closer, and you have to press it on like the yellow.
But I'm sorry, Ash,
Oh.
we couldn't hear very well. Did you officially call the?
Yes.
You called the meeting
Yes.
to order for the Sustainability
Yes.
Committee?
Yes.
Okay, great, just in case.
Yeah.
All right, so just a very brief background. So this is an effort, the Ashland Tree Bylaw, that the Sustainability Committee has been working on for quite some time. Through COVID, obviously things were a little slow, and recently they've brought it to the planning board to try to get our input, try to create a bylaw that might work for Ashland, to try to put a lot of different ideas together. So this part of our discussion tonight is not an official forum. There is no official warrant. This is a public discussion about some of the things that we have been reviewing in order to try to gain some input from the public and to answer any questions. I do want people to note that the information that was available online is a little confusing relative to what we're going to go through today. And so I ask that if you have questions, if things really don't make sense and they're not resolved within the presentation, to please ask the questions, because these are kind of complicated thoughts and issues and policies we're discussing. Some of the things I think didn't come out properly in the documentation that was online and available for you to read. So we're considering it an open discussion, a time when we were really trying to listen to people who are here, obviously, and also people online. And we hope that we can gain a lot of information that way. We're going to start out with a presentation.
Ash wants to say anything. If not,
Oh.
I'll start.
Ash, did you have any statement before Marjorie begins her presentation?
Yeah, as Margie's setting up the presentation, if you don't mind, I just wanted to provide a quick point of view as to why sustainability is pursuing this and believes that it's important for Ashland to adopt. As we've been talking about from the Sustainability Committee, we've had, a goal of net zero for the town, and in today's world, while we can continue to make progress on reducing our overall carbon emission, the only way to actually absorb carbon is through vegetation, trees. And so from a pure carbon neutrality perspective, it is critically important, but trees are super critical overall as well, which Margie will go over. We believe that trees, as the diagram shows, right? Trees sustain life, and we really need to sustain our trees. Our goal with this is to, as Tricia put it, really have a public discussion. We're trying to incorporate as much public input before we take this to town meeting. So nothing you see is baked. It's points of view, and if you've got strong points of view, please share them. We want to try and represent the needs of the town as best as we can. We're early in the process, so please don't think that anything we're putting out there is absolutely locked and in place. Margie, I'll hand off to you. Thank you so much, Tricia, for giving me this chance.
Thank you. And just 1 minute before you start, Marjorie, just to, for people who may not know, people both in the audience and online, Ash, who was just speaking, is the current chair of the Sustainability Committee. Margie Gasso, who's going to be presenting, is also on the Sustainability Committee. Peter Matchik is our town planner, and the rest of us here are on the planning board. So just to get a little familiar with the faces that are here. So with that, Margie, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, good evening. I understand that there has been some confusion and misunderstanding on the bylaw, so I hope that I can clear some of that up this evening. I have a short presentation, and then we'll open it up for discussion because our main purpose tonight is to get feedback. A couple comments before I begin. We would like to create a tree bylaw that is fair and serves the best interests of the community. It is not our intent to stop development, but to develop in a responsible way that considers and maximizes the benefits to the community. And as I said, we hope to gather as much feedback this evening, but if you would also like to submit written comments, you can do that following this evening. You can email the Sustainability Committee at sustainability@ashlandmass.com or the Planning Board. So the purpose of the tree bylaw is essentially to prevent clear cutting. And our intent is to work with developers so that their clear cutting is done only when necessary and in a way that is thoughtful and preserves the values of Ashland and the property values themselves. The bylaw will apply when a developer comes to the planning board for a permit to either build subdivisions, multifamily dwellings, or other commercial projects. And it would be triggered by the following things: a site plan review, which pertains to construction or enlargement of a commercial or industrial structure, site alteration special permit, or subdivision approval. The bylaw does not apply to existing residential lots. Shall I admit somebody?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we're proposing that trees that are 6 inches in diameter at breast height, which is 4.5 feet above the ground level, or larger, and that are located in the setback areas, which are essentially around the perimeter of the property, be defined as protected trees. The requirements for applicants will be that they'll have to submit a tree protection plan that shows the trees on the property that will remain and those that will be removed. The plan should show how these remaining trees will be protected during construction activities. And they'll be required to either replace the trees that they remove or pay an equivalent value to a tree fund that will be established to allow the town to plant and care for more trees. The equivalent value will be based on a formula that considers the cost to purchase replacement trees and to plant and maintain them. And it will apply per inch of diameter at breast height that has been removed. Trees provide many essential services that make life possible. They create oxygen and they filter our air. They promote our physical and mental well-being. They provide shade, evaporative cooling, and reduced temperature extremes. They reduce our need to use more energy and thereby bring cost savings. For example, they can lower heating costs by 20% and air conditioning by 30%. Trees connect people and build stronger neighborhoods. They provide privacy, they increase curb appeal, and they can add value to our homes. And research has shown that that can range from 10 to 19% increase in value. They strengthen the economy and they provide savings in value. As Ash said, in face of climate change, they are very important for moderating temperature and wind, which can improve public health during extreme weather events. They remove pollutants from the air so that they reduce pollution, ozone, and smog. They provide stability for land and control erosion and flooding. They improve our watersheds and drinking water And of course, they beautify our environment. I think many of us live here because we appreciate having green cover. I feel that I have to bring up soils. Soils are becoming more and more recognized as being important. And so my point is that it's not just about an individual tree, it's about the whole environment in which they grow. And soils are a really important part of that. For one thing, they support biodiversity, which is also essential for dealing with climate change, because if you have more variety, there's a better chance of surviving. They also play a big part in regulating flooding, heat islands, water quality, and I can't see what it says, drought response. And soil is really important in carbon storage. So the soil, which includes an elaborate network of microorganisms, organic matter, the roots, and together with the leaf litter, actually comprise the largest amount of carbon that's captured from the atmosphere. And in this diagram on the left, it simply shows that there are many different parts of the trees that capture and store carbon. On the right, what it shows you is that the dark green color represents the live above ground, and that is the proportion of carbon that is stored in that component. And all of the rest of it is stored in the other components, which include the organic, which is the light green, and also includes the live below ground material, deadwood, and as I said, the leaf litter. And so protecting and preserving trees is important. It's a strategy that we're pursuing in order to manage climate change, and it's part of the net zero resolution that we passed some years ago. I think that might be, oh, no, here we go. So, what is your vision for the future of Ashland? And this is when I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Margie. So, so this is really about a public discussion. So Margie has given her presentation. We're happy to take questions to try to really get make sure where we are now is kind of understood, but also looking for comments and feedback. Peter will be managing that process both in the room and online. Good luck, Peter. I'll help out when I can. Obviously for people online, you probably usually know the routine, but you just want to make sure that your hand is raised, and then when your turn comes up, Peter will address you directly. So Margie, it's up to you if you want to have a standing desk, as
No,
very
I don't think
fashionable
that.
these days, or if you want to take a seat.
So first, anybody in the room, would anybody like in the room want to go first and step up to the microphone? Sure, yes, Cece, please.
And just because this usually comes up sometimes in planning board meetings, I'm not going to put a time restriction on speaking tonight, but I would say to note that there are a lot of people in the room, so let's make sure that everyone gets a chance, and we can always come around a second time if we have an opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. So I have one question and then a couple of comments I'd like to share. When we talk about replacing the trees or paying into a fund, can you help us to understand under what circumstances they wouldn't replace the trees but would rather donate to the fund?
Under what circumstances? Well, I think there are a number of factors. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, so to some extent it would be up to the developer to make that choice, but it would also depend on the configuration of the property and whether there's suitable space and the right environment for the trees that they would want to plant.
All right, thank you. And then, as many of you know, I fell down the rabbit hole with the wireless radiation issue. And in addition to the human health harms that we've discussed with these boards before, there's a deep body of science showing that the radio frequency radiation is very harmful to birds, bees, and trees and the rest of the environment. So on this crazy journey, I've had the privilege of connecting with many of the world's leading experts on these topics. I'm certainly not an expert, but I put our bylaw forth to a couple of gentlemen who are. And Ed Friedman has been the chair of the Friends of Merry Meeting Bay up in Maine. And he said, and I'll read from a couple of emails that these guys sent back to me. So Ed Friedman said, one comment regarding your draft ordinance language, which overall I think is excellent. I would reconsider the use of the word clear cut. In Massachusetts, it appears to mean removal of all trees in a stand. While this may be part of your intent, I think the general public idea of clear cutting is probably more towards substantial or total cutting of a stand, usually on an industrial basis. Yet your ordinance definitely focuses on a timber harvesting at a much smaller scale, even to the point of keeping track of individual trees. So he says, I think you can have language that addresses your main concerns without saying this control of clear cutting is the intent. And he was kind enough to provide the language that we might want to align with at the state level. And in the glossary of forestry terms, they say clear cut is one, a stand in which essentially all trees have been removed in one operation. Note, depending on management objectives, a clear cut may or may not have reserved trees left to attain goals other than regeneration. And two, a regeneration or harvest method that removes essentially all trees in a stand. And in the draft that we have today, we define clear cutting as the removal of 50% of the mature trees as determined by the Ashland tree warden. So I think his information was a way to help us align with what the state guidelines already are, or the laws, to save ourselves any trouble down the road. And then the second gentleman that I reached out to is Albert Manville, and he has retired from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, and he offered us some comments about bird habitat protection. So he says, one of my jobs with the Division of Migratory Birds Management was to adopt and implement all reasonable and necessary efforts to avoid or minimize take. That's the unpermitted killing, injury, and crippling loss of migratory birds, so-called incidental or accidental take, which the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services does not permit. So he also helped to co-author voluntary communication tower guidelines. And he says that clear cutting, selective cutting, even-aged stand cutting, and related tree shrub clearing efforts can be especially problematic during bird breeding season when trees and shrubs are being cut, but nests are active. He was successful in stopping some of this activity, but it's a huge issue. So he suggests you might put a simple clause recommending against any tree shrub removal or cutting during the nesting and fledgling periods for protected migratory birds, and there's more than 1,000 species that are protected. Arguably, this cessation could be for most of the year, since something is generally breeding, nesting, rearing chicks, and helping fledglings for much of the year, from December to late spring for bald eagles, to early spring to early summer for other raptors, to spring and summer for songbirds and winter birds, and into the fall for birds rearing second clutches. The protections are all codified in the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and its implementing regulations, and the take issues that Trump managed to remove during his administration were overturned by the U.S. Federal District Court order in 2019, and he was involved in that. So it's now, the court order has now been codified into a new migratory bird rule by the United States Fish and Wildlife Services. And then he adds that bald eagles clearly present in Massachusetts, and I know from Mr. Dinnerman's photos that he posts, we do have them here in Ashland. So in addition to the MBTA protections, also protected by the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act, disturbance take and take resulting in mortality are prohibited under that act unless they are given a permit. You might point out that if disturbance becomes an issue, the cell carriers would need to take permits before the fact. Otherwise, they could be in criminal violation of statute. And he's included some attachments that I'll go ahead and send. There's another part to that around disturbance and the noise from chainsaws, logging trucks, chippers, and you name it can constitute a disturbance. So there are some other factors that go with the trees, with the birds. So I also just wanted to comment that when we started introducing 5G into our town, and at one of the earlier planning board meetings, I asked Mr. Klasnick, who's an attorney for the industry, when they were giving us these applications, I read through it and they were saying, oh, like on the Ponderosa site, they were just going to take down 3 antennas and put up 9 or 12 in its place. Same platform, same cell tower, no big deal to them. And I asked him, I said, are you putting 5G in our town? Are you introducing new technology into our town? And he said, yes, but nowhere in the application did he indicate that. So we need to be very careful about what we're allowing the wireless industry to do in our community. They have, there are many reports around the country of telecom coming in literally under the dark of night sometimes and clear-cutting the trees, because with 5th generation technology, their signals are very small in addition to the bigger wavelengths that they're using, and those small signals are disrupted by things like trees. So they just come in and lop off the trees. So I love that we're going to have the arborist in Ashland involved in all of the planning board decisions. And that's something that with new technology we need to be mindful of. And if we get to the point of revising our wireless communication facilities bylaw, we have a good example out of Americans for Responsible Technology. And one of the things they do recommend is that all of our applications are reviewed by a certified arborist. So thank you.
Thank you, Cece. So I'm gonna just go to the next online person, and then we can kind of rotate back and forth. I think that's the most fair and equitable thing to do. So the first person with their hand up is Joel Arbeitman. Joel, can you please introduce yourself with your name and address?
Hi, Joel Arbeitman, Woodridge Lane in Ashland. Thank you, Mr. Matchak. I have a few comments on the proposed bylaw. First, I want to thank especially Margie for all the work she's put into this. It was an enormous amount of work, and I think she did a great job with her presentation. I also want to thank the Sustainability Committee and also the Planning Board. I know there's a lot of work that's going to go into writing up a new bylaw. Among many other climate programs the town should consider, I think a tree protection plan is critically necessary. About a week or two ago, I watched an interview with the Secretary of Energy under Obama, a guy named Stephen Chu. He indicated that we have already baked in a 3-degree temperature rise by the year 2100. It's unimaginable the impact of what that's going to do. That's already going to happen no matter what we do. I mean, we're really in trouble here. A lot of, common sense articles are talking about planetary extinction. There's no way to overstate the risks from climate change. It's threatening our food supply, our air, our soil, our water, and most of all, our lives and our health. While I strongly support the tree bylaw, I see it as far too timid. It doesn't go far enough, and I'll give some examples. One simple thing we could do to broaden it a little bit that would be not risky and not costly would be, why not consider providing an incentive for homeowners to plant trees? All of the focus here is on restricting cutting of trees, which is great, but why not go farther? Why not? And maybe the fund for that could come from those who are cutting the trees. We could reward homeowners from that fund who turn around and plant trees. So maybe we could take a look at thinking out of the box and broadening the program a little bit. The bylaw as proposed, I think, is very limited and much too limited. I think it needs to do a lot more. It only applies to development and redevelopment projects. a planning board member recently said, and I may be misquoting, I don't mean to, that there are only a few very large project areas remaining in Ashland. I mean, the town is approaching build out and there's not that many more sites that this is going to apply to. So it's well-meaning, but I think it's very limited. The bylaw should cover all trees in Ashland, including private property. I understand the politics of this. You know, the committee has been shy about trying to be too aggressive, but it's time for residents to start understanding the risks here, to be educated and informed, and to understand what they can do. And I think they'll respond in a positive way if they're given that information. Let me see what else I had. What is the ratio of the number of trees that might be covered by the bylaw for these development and redevelopment projects compared to the total number of trees in Ashland? In other words, if the trees that are going to be covered are 2% or 5% of the town's tree stock, it seems like, given the risk of climate change and the urgency, that this is a drop in the bucket. I had a couple of technical comments on the bylaw as proposed that I hope you'll review carefully and perhaps make sure that these aren't going to be problems. One of the things built into the bylaw as proposed is that it has a very good, I think a very positive thing, what I'm going to phrase it, a look-back provision. If somebody has cut down trees even 12 months prior to the beginning of their development project, or however it's worded, those trees would be covered by the tree bylaw. That's very good. The problem I see is that if I'm a landowner, say I have a 5 or a 10 acre parcel, and I'm going to be moving to Florida, and I'm going to sell off my land so that a developer can come in and do all this work. Maybe it would, with this law in effect, maybe it would be better for me to cut down all my trees on my private property that's not covered by this bylaw, and then wait 12 months to sell my land to a developer. I can sell off all the timber and make money, and maybe the lot is a lot more appealing to a developer because I just exempted them from the bylaw, if I'm understanding it correctly. I really think that needs to be addressed, and for this reason, at a minimum, I think larger parcels, even privately owned parcels, should be covered by this bylaw. Last comment on the technical stuff. I didn't know about this in advance, but if I'm understanding the way this is going to get worded, this 20-foot perimeter, it sounds like only the 20-foot perimeter of a given of a target parcel will be covered by the tree bylaw, and the rest of it won't be. Just as a simple example to make the point, my house is set back about 100 feet from the street. I left hundreds of trees on my property. There's huge trees everywhere. If I were allowed to cut down all of the trees except for the 20 feet near the lot line, we would lose 60–70% of my trees. Instead of doing the 20-foot perimeter, what I'd like to see is a change. I'd like to see the bylaw say, if you're within 20 feet of an approved structure, that's very different. Then you can cut the trees down. They'll be in your way, and you have a right to clear them so that you can do your work. We don't want to interfere with that process. But to do it on the property line seems very ill-conceived to me. Finally, I would strongly encourage the town and the Sustainability Committee to hold a public forum that would be open to all residents about what we can do as a town and do individually to help with the threat of climate change. Ashland residents would respond, I believe, in a very positive, enthusiastic way. I think fearing being more aggressive, we don't have the time given the urgency that climate change presents, and that we should be bolder than the committee is currently being. So I support this, but I think that we should look at a much more aggressive stance. And I really want to thank everybody for making any effort you've made here. It's a great project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. Is there anyone in-house that wants to come to the mic? All right.
I think you raised your hand first, I'm sorry. And just a small announcement, there was an iPhone found in the women's bathroom. Oh. Okay, I have it. Please.
Would you like to pass these around to them?
Sure, yeah, no sweat.
Thank you. My name is Mike Kane. I'm a local small developer and builder. And I also own, my company's name is MG Kane Properties. And I also own 126 Self-Storage over on Pond Street. I had met Margie back in October 22 when this early stages, we talked about this, and I kind of had forgotten about it until a week, 10 days ago when I found out this meeting was going to take place. So I haven't heard anything about the costs of implementing this program on developments. So I said, well, let me take the bylaw, the costs, and apply it to two projects that I built here in town. One is my storage facility on Pond Street, and one is Wilson Circle, which was a six-lot cul-de-sac I built right kind of close to the Oregon Club. So I took the numbers out of the bylaw, and I hope they're accurate. Tell me if you're not. Now, Wilson Circle, we had to cut 250,000 square feet clear cut. Why? High groundwater, septic systems, 8 to 10 foot fills for septics and what have you, very expensive to build. You couldn't save a tree and fill 8 feet around it, obviously. So when you do the math, and people in the room and the planning board members here have a copy of this, we had to cut 861 trees with an average 10-inch diameter at breast height. We have to replace 5 times that, which is 4,305 trees at 2-inch diameter. At $750 a tree, the cost is $3,228,000 to the tree fund. The house is sold for $750,000 to $900,000. This would add $538,000 to each house. And this is very typical of any subdivision, single-family subdivision that will be built in the future in the town. Second example, my storage facility, similar math. We had to cut 5 acres, replacement trees, $3,937,000. That's a commercial project. I doubt anybody would build that if they had to pay that today. The facility didn't cost to build that with the land and construction. Those are 2 real examples of projects that were built applying this bylaw to it. And then I just did a hypothetical for a typical A&R lot, approval not required. Typical lots in town are 30,000 square feet. Estimating to cut 20,000 square feet to fit your house, your septic, your driveway. Maybe you want solar exposure, a yard, what have you. Applied the same math using the very minimum tree size of 6 inches, 3 replacement trees per. Comes out to $155,000 added on to the cost of the house. So there are huge costs involved in this bylaw. And they could be higher. I was very conservative with the numbers of trees and the sizes of trees. These numbers could be 25 or 50% higher when you do the actual measurements. So that's a comment on cost, and I have a question, I guess, for Margie. You said it didn't apply to existing single-family homes, yet the site plan alteration special permit bylaw, 5.8, applies to this tree bylaw, correct? Correct. So 5.8.2 says applicability. No person shall undertake the following land clearing / grading activities without first obtaining a site alteration special permit from the planning board. Clearing of an area greater than 5,000 square feet or grading if involving more than 100 cubic yards of earth. So if I wanted to build a swimming pool with a patio around it, or a detached garage or barn, it's disturbing 5,000 square feet, clearing it, this would apply by the way I read it. No?
I was actually wondering about that, and I would like to ask Peter.
So I think with the purpose, and I think when the system created this, is that it would apply to any newly created residential development.
But this applies to this bylaw.
I agree, and I don't think, we really haven't had that discussion yet. And I understand your point and your question, and I think that's a good discussion that everyone has to have
Yeah.
with the sustainability
Yeah,
and the
I mean,
planning
by the
and community.
words, it clearly applies to anybody
I
altering
understand.
5,000.
You have a great point of view.
Right.
Yeah, I can't argue that,
Yeah.
and it's a great point of view, and it's a great point to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a huge expense for new developments, possibly redevelopments. I think will shut down most new developments. You can't, no one's going to spend, $500,000 for trees on top of the cost of the land and the house and what have you. And then if it applies to existing residences, there'll be huge costs to those people to put in a pool or detached garage or what have you. So the costs are very important. The costs haven't been discussed or mentioned. That's what I thought my role should be as a developer and builder. Thank you.
Mike, are you open? I was going to say, are you open to a question?
Sure, absolutely.
So, in your calculations, those were based on what was online, which is basically clearing that the bylaw would apply to the whole lot. It's not calculate, or is it calculating the buildable?
It's based on the bylaw that I printed offline.
That printed offline.
Yeah.
So it's not, what Margie was presenting in her presentation was that the protected trees would just be in the setbacks. So this is if we cleared the whole lot. And the alternative, what the bylaw is looking at, is protecting only those trees that are in the setbacks already, right?
Right, but you're talking new construction, right?
Right, new
I'm going to
construction.
take the example again of Wilson Circle, which, by the way, I want you to understand, that is the town's only net zero energy subdivision. The houses are super insulated, solar powered, all electric, 100% off the grid. Well, they're on the grid, but they don't use power off the grid. And the people live there for zero energy costs. No electric bill, no gas bill, no propane bill. So I consider myself to be a very green builder, very green person. But the costs are the costs, and I don't see where I made any mistakes.
So here, this is kind of the second part of my question, right? As a developer, which I am not, right? You had talked a little bit about that development, and I don't know that development very well, but about some of the things you need to put in, septic systems, roads, different things. Is it possible in a development like that to, that there are areas of trees that can be saved more easily, that maybe don't fit within these tight restrictions, but in looking at a land like that, are there areas from your point of view that can be saved in such that if the bylaw was written a different way, there'd be like a middle ground between clearing it all and restricting a developer to, you have to save these areas, and someone might say those areas just don't work for what I'm trying to do. Do you understand my question?
Yes, I do. And
Okay.
the answer is, in this particular case, no. Because of the high groundwater, because of the septic systems, the huge fills, you had to clear very large areas, clear cut very large areas. Now we minimized it, but we had wetlands to deal with, we had detention ponds, retention areas to deal with, so we stopped where we could, but we couldn't build without cutting those trees.
Because you needed to put the septic systems in what would be the setback areas. Was that right?
Well, when you have a new construction, and you have to remember, most of the good land, all of the good land is built. You know, the flat fields without any trees and great soils, they've been built 50, 60 years ago. Everything that's left is hilly, it's wet, it's lousy soils, it's rocky, and you've got to kind of regrade everything in order to make it buildable and livable. It's just very difficult to say we can do it this way and save these trees. In some cases, it's possible. I'm just saying in this particular case, it was impossible. If you had sewer, it might be a little more easy to do that, but we didn't have sewer. So,
Okay,
No.
thank you. Thanks for taking my question.
I guess it answered my
Yeah.
question, and that is that there is no land in Ashland that doesn't have trees on it.
not much,
Okay.
not much, yeah.
So
That's-
if you couldn't have found a different 5 acres, that you wouldn't have taken so many trees down.
Well, this was for sale. I mean, you know, there could have been another 5 acres,
Right.
but
But if you knew ahead of time that it was gonna cost you $3 million to build on it because of the trees, you might have looked at some of the other properties. And
oh yeah, I wouldn't have bought it. I never would have bought this. It would be you couldn't sell the property, the houses.
But you're saying there's not enough property in Ashland to build anything that isn't.
No, I didn't say that at all. I just said most of it's treed. In order to build, you got to cut a whole lot of the trees down. And I mean, in a subdivision, it applies to the bylaw.
Yeah,
So if you cut down.
And Mike, I think that's fine. I certainly didn't mean to put you on the
Okay.
spot. It
No,
was
no, no,
like
it's-
just,
Again, costs, I just want to get costs out there. They're
Yeah.
real.
yeah, and I also want to make sure that, I mean, that this is an informal meeting, but generally, questions are directed to the chair, as in town meeting, and so it's not really a discussion between members of the public. So I just want to be careful of that,
Yeah.
can direct it towards us.
Right. That's the way it
and-
works.
and
She's the
not-
boss.
That's right.
Thank
Give it
you.
your best shot, man. I'm ready. All right?
All right, I'm gonna take the,
So-
excuse me, I'm gonna take the next hand from the audience, and I believe on my screen, Julie N. Julie N., can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Julie Nardone, 86 Elliott Street. If I'm visualizing this correctly, it's as if I'm looking at a giant, say, square, and most of the middle is, for all intents and purposes, clear cut. So we're just talking about a border around the edges. And I think the point of this bylaw is to act as a deterrent, to take down what's left, which honestly, it's really not that much because it's just around the perimeter. I think the pricing, you know, if you don't take the trees down, you don't have to pay for the pricing. I'm not sure I dwell on that. In the mitigation section, honestly, my first reaction was that it was actually on the weak side. You're taking down, I think from the presentation, trees that are 6 inches and larger, and the more mature trees are the ones that absorb the most carbon. And then where people are being asked to replace them with very small trees, 2-inch trees. We had some trees that sort of fell down and were diseased ashes. And we actually spent extra money to get larger trees because they take a long time to grow. You know, if you got these little saplings all over the place, I was confused why you would take down an 8-inch tree and replace it with all these little saplings instead of just replacing it with a more equivalent tree. So we're kind of replacing something with something equal. So that's pretty much all I had to say. I think it's a very good start. I thank everyone who worked on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nardone. So we have a half hour left scheduled for this discussion. So I'm just going to ask people to keep it to 3 minutes or shorter. And I do have 7 people online and a couple people in the audience. So let's do another one from the audience, but I think we just need to be respectful of everyone's time tonight. So if someone would like to step up to the microphone, I saw Mr. Hickey, you had your hand up, please feel free, and we'll just keep on alternating one after the other.
I'm Chuck Lids, I'm 150 Oregon Road, and I, of course, know Mike Kane's development extremely well, and I will say that it is the way he described it as extremely green. It's a really impressive piece, and I commend him for that. But I would say that one could have cut down much less and still come up with a way of putting the septic system in for all these houses.
It's directed to me, Chuck, and not to Mike.
I'm sorry. While I think, this is an issue, I think we need to talk about whether we have some mechanism for making exceptions where it's essential to the house. Nonetheless, I think that we could have left a lot more trees there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Litz. To the next person online, I think Kara, can you please, you've had your hand up for a while, could you please step forward and state your name and address?
Hi, this is Kara Hume. I'm at 31 Donnelly Lane. I'm part of the Sustainability Committee, and there were a couple stats that I wanted to put out there in relation to costs in helping Margie kind of figure out this bylaw. I did some research into what is typically spent on re-landscaping a construction site for a home. And from what I could tell, the average part of the budget that is spent on landscaping for new residential homes was about 10% of the project. So we fully know that this would be an added cost, but I think we need to also realize that developers are already spending money on landscaping, and it does increase the sale value. So part of this is not new costs, and there is a return on this investment. Besides the net zero, sustainability, stormwater, and all of that stuff. And I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right, thank you. To the next person in the audience, can you please step forward and introduce yourself at the podium with your name and address?
Thank you. I'm Lori Dudley, and I live at 561 Chestnut Street. I've been a 25-year resident of Ashland, and the reason why we moved here is because we liked the diversity of Ashland. I liked that there are blue-collar and white-collar workers that you can go to football games and lacrosse games with, and I just feel like this bylaw is going to change the dynamics of our town. I don't think that it's been vetted enough. The repercussions on residents and businesses hasn't been totally evaluated, and I would like to see some more options considered, specifically tax incentives for businesses for keeping the trees and for developers for keeping the trees. Having the town vote to purchase more land for forestry. I also live near the Warren Woods. There's a huge field there where trees could be planted. You could make it into a tree operation. I was part of the Earth Day growing up. Like, people love to get together and plant trees. I think that having fines and fees and taxes on residents and on the developers it's just a bad knee-jerk reaction. I don't think it's a good look for the town. I don't think it's a good look for the board. Also, the second thing that I want to go over is that this is going to drive off all new development. I believe Mike Kane is spot on. There's a lot more things to development that isn't realized, like ledger, your septic, your wetlands. There's so many things that make it so hard to develop this. Everything here is on rock. Like, we're just on rock and trees and everything. It's just, it's very challenging. This is going to make businesses come to a halt. It's going to stagnate the entire area, and the businesses that are here are going to stay. You drive off the businesses, and what that does is that puts all the tax burden on the residents. The higher taxes are going to drive off the young adults, it's going to drive off the elderly, and it's going to drive off all the blue-collar workers. The higher taxes are going to kill diversity within this town, and I think that this tree clearing law will turn Ashland into a bedroom community like Dover and Sherborne. And Dover, what Dover and Sherborne don't have a lot of is businesses and blue-collar workers. So what they do have a lot of is elites and trees. So I don't want this to become an elitist community. That's not why we moved here. And I think there are more collaborative solutions that Ashland can come up with to can help the environment, help the businesses, and help the residents. Okay, that's it. Sorry, fast.
Thank you. Thank you. To the next person on Zoom, Kathy Rooney, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Hello, Kathy Rooney, 136 Fountain Street. So I just wanted to say thank you for holding this discussion, and to the Sustainability Committee and to Margie for all the hard work they've done so far. And I know people in the background and planning departments and the tree warden for sure have been involved with this. I'm a little concerned that this discussion has already gone to the extremes of elitist versus too much cost to not enough trees, because one of the things I've seen in town for the 25 plus years I've been here is that we've lost a lot of the farmland, we've lost a lot of the trees, and we've lost a lot of field habitat, which is actually one of the most valuable habitats in the state for biological diversity. So I'm really concerned that in part of this, with this tree bylaws, our streets in particular are creating a lot of the heat urban island effect. And we need to be replanting along our streets, and we don't seem to be doing it. We cut down a lot of trees for Eversource. We cut down a lot of trees because they're old and past their prime, and they need to come down because they're damaged, they've been hit by cars, whatever, and they never get replaced in town. I think that's a big mistake we're making with our development. I know that what some of the stuff Kara said about the amount of return on investment that planting in trees, near trees, and saving as many trees as possible on a property adds exponentially to the property values, to the resale value, to the rentability, to the keeping of tenants if that's what you're doing. Your return on investment is very high for taking the time and effort and money to not cut down so many trees. So I just wanted to say thank you, and that's my comments.
Thank you, Kathy. With that said, I will take the next person here live in the audience. I think Steve and then you, sir. Please introduce yourself with your name and address.
My name is Steve Hickey. I live on Franklin Road. I am a builder in town. I also own one of the probably few remaining tree lots in town. One thing that I just quite don't understand with this at all, well, there's several things, but one of them, the planning board, through any of the, for a site plan review, for any of the proposed projects that you're talking about with this bylaw, you have the ability to work with applicants to fine tune and tweak those projects. Any project that comes in front of you, you can deal with planting more trees, moving things around, working with the developer to get a project that works better for the town. You have that ability now. So what is this adding to it? It's a tax. It's a tax, and it's a tax only for property owners, new people that would be building something new in town to try to contribute to the tax base. It's I can't even believe that it's limited to just new projects. Existing homeowners are all exempt. They can do whatever they want. It's ridiculous. You have the ability to work with applicants. I've seen you do it. I've seen you request more trees. I've watched you do it. It doesn't add anything new in that regard, except making you pay. Look at a project like the middle school, the new middle school, and look at a project like the DPW building. Right? Say, round numbers, if you took down 10 10-inch trees in the perimeter, that's 100 inches of tree. You have to replant them at 2 inches, right? That's 50 trees. Did either project plant 50 trees? And one of those, did collectively they plant close to 50 trees? No, but yet you're requiring other people to do it. Or, guess what? Paying in at a cost of what? 40 grand. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. And I really would like the board to tell the public why you think it's okay to put this cost burden on individual private property owners. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hickey. Next up on the audience, Lori. Lori, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Hi, my name's Laurie Giorgio. I live at 85 Oregon Road. I've been a resident for 28 years. My mother grew up here. My grandparents grew up here. I don't think it's right for someone to tell you what you can do with your land. I'm actually really taken aback by this. I think it's really important. I like trees like the next person, and I will plant trees, but I don't want my town to tell me what I can and cannot do. If I try to sell my property and I have to go through this bylaw, no one's going to want to buy it. That leaves me with my property, which was mine, so I should be able to do what I please. I think more people need to know about this situation that we have here, and I think that definitely, I don't agree with it at all. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. In the room, sir, can you please step forward and state your name and address?
Do I sound like an idiot?
No, you were great. I was just trying to move comments along.
So good afternoon, evening, rather. Thank you. What happened?
Oh, I got you.
Did I do something wrong?
No, it was
Okay.
misunderstanding of the last.
So my name is Ken Ardell, 26 Deer Ridge Road. I tend to agree with the comments of a number of people in here. I think I had drafted up some written statement that I was going to make, but then it was all based on what we had to work with online, which now appears to be different. So my first comment is, presentation is nice, but the detail is in the words, and we need to see those words, because that's where the first round of some of this net zero stuff came out, didn't come out in the way the bylaw was passed with what the information was that was available to us. So I'm just saying, let's get the information out and have a public forum that can discuss this, because I too worry about overreach to people telling us what we can do and not do with our property. That's just not American. Now, on top of it, I always think about these issues in three questions. Is it needed? What problem is it solving for? And we heard all about, the benefits of trees and how they take in carbon and all that. But again, a solution needs to fit the size of the problem. We can't solve everything about climate change in a town that represents 1.6% of the mass of the Massachusetts area. It's 1.6% of the total state area. We're not going to solve it with drastic measures in our town, and this is a drastic measure. Is there a detailed assessment of the cost? We talked about the cost for builders. What about the cost for administration? You got permitting and site reviews and and all the inspections and everything else that's going to go in behind this, it's going to be a cost to the town, which means it's a cost to the taxpayers. So where's the detailed cost of implementing this change? Is it manageable and reasonable? I reacted very strongly about the imposition of these rules on homeowners, trying to figure out what the heck they have to do to comply. I appreciate the fact that the clarification was it's not for existing properties. I do not agree with going back and revisiting that comment, because I think that's really a bad thing for the town. And I think the fines and penalties are just out of this world. It's absolutely ridiculous to have the kinds of fines and penalties that are encompassed in this document. Now, I'm not saying that we do nothing or anything else, but I think there's an approach here that can work, and that focuses on educating rather than regulating. Offer people options. Someone just suggested incentives or other things, but offer people options for planting the right kind of trees when they want to replace trees or need to replace trees that they take down or fall down because of storms. And we have a lot of storms. We have a lot of trees that are falling down. So help people understand what they should be planting. Do some educating. And I think a lot of people would gravitate to that. We are opposed, and a lot of people are going to be opposed to the idea of saying you can't do anything like put in a pool or put in a patio. And the illustration in the document that was online was a house. It was a house. It wasn't a development. It was a single house with some proposed changes. So that really triggered me to say, this wasn't about developers. It was about every homeowner in the town. So we need clarity, written clarity about what the program is, okay? That's all I'm appealing for. Thank you very much.
Can I respond to that last bit? Regarding the diagram that was in the document, that was a mistake that I made by including that particular diagram. It was meant as a placeholder to show that a tree plan would be needed. It was borrowed from a town whose bylaw actually applies to residential property, and I did not mean for it to apply to residential property.
I'm asking for the actual document.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Great points. Next up, online, Mr. Rob Scher, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Great, Rob. Thank you, Peter. Rob Scher, 41 Bay Colony Drive. First, I want to thank Margie and Sustainability for pushing on, and this and Planning Board for looking at it and working with it, and also the people who have come forward tonight to talk about it, especially the developers who have to deal with it in the real world. So I certainly appreciate those comments. I think I could tell, I'm sure there's some details that still need to be clarified on this. One of the things I thought was just a couple major points was, I think you need to emphasize or define the setback and how that might typically work. So when someone is saying it's going to cost X amount of money, I think some distinct examples could be helpful in helping people understand what's really involved. For example, if someone's building an apartment building, and what would the setback requirement be, and how many trees might be involved? So that I think it can be highly variable. So that's that's something I would suggest that you look at in terms of actually helping people to understand what's at stake here. The other thing, in terms of, I certainly like the fact that people are talking about positive incentives. I think that's something worth considering, and maybe something in that direction would be good as well. I think one of the things this does is try to give people an incentive to save trees. So, that's a good way of looking at it. One thing I would, in terms of the cost, maybe right now we have a situation where there's no direct cost to cutting down trees. I mean, I think Steve Hickey made a great point. I know there's a lot of discussions with the planning board about saving trees and doing that. Maybe, part of the answer is to reducing the costs. We're at a position now where there's zero cost to cutting down trees without good reason. Maybe if there's at least somewhat of cost, maybe not everything that's in this proposal, that would at least be a starting point. So that's, that's kind of my initial reaction to that. So, think about positive incentives and looking at this. I had just a simple question. Is the A&R exempt from this proposal or not? It wasn't clear All right, I read that. I thought it was exempt. Is that true?
We are still discussing
Okay.
how to deal with A&R.
Yeah. So, you know, so I'm sure we all recognize this is still very much in a draft case. So, you know, I think you've made a good start here. I think some practical examples of what we might be dealing with and what its effect would be could be helpful in helping us to evaluate it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shear. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak that has not spoken? Okay, I'm going to go to the next person with their hand up online, on Zoom, excuse me. Mr. Rob Mullenbeek, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Yes, hi, my name is Rob Mullenbeek, 2 Candlelight Way.
Excuse me, Rob, can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm on 2 Candlelight Way in Ashland. I've been looking at this with Margie for a long, long time, and I'm glad that it finally came about. I was very much surprised by the numbers from Mike Kane, and I want to kind of hope that you guys on the planning board and sustainability committee work with him, because I can't possibly imagine the numbers that he was bringing around and kind of come up with a scaring kind of thing, you know, because we're only talking about the setbacks. I don't think he calculated the number of trees correctly that he's going to have to take down, even if, you know, because it's like Julie Randone said, it's just a kind of a small area around the extreme there that the trees are at this particular point get to be protected.
Yep,
That was not the original plan.
Rob, just for a clarification, Mike did say that he was calculating over the whole site, which is what the online information said. So that's what he did. But I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so I want to make sure that when we have a next forum that, you know, when we should come up with numbers. I agree that cost is important, and, you know, building contractors have to have a job, and they have to be able to sell their houses and all that. So we should work on the cost. I think cost is important, and we should all make good calculations, and maybe his pieces of land are a good example to work out. That's my suggestion for the next time.
Thank you so much, Rob. Is anybody else in the room that hasn't spoke that would like to speak at the microphone? Okay, moving on to the Zoom meeting. Brittany, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Hi, yes. My name is Brittany Adams Ivancho. I live at 32 Warren Road. And I haven't heard anybody draw attention to the bylaws own attention paid to invasive species, and I just wanted to say, you know, I don't think that the development of more housing in Ashland, which is critical, and the development of more business, which is also critical to our economy, has to be at odds with the ability for us to save valuable trees in Ashland. I also want to say, and it's going to sound ridiculous on face value, but not all trees are good trees, right? And so when we talk about trees on a lot that's for sale, is there a way possibly that we could have an arborist or a horticulturist go out and assess, okay, you know, 50% of the lot is invasive trees, or 60% of the lot is invasive trees, and then make it so that the cost to replace those trees, right? If it's 80% native trees, that's going to be a costlier replacement for the developer versus if there's 80% invasive trees, have at it. Am I making sense? I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but I don't think it should just be a blanket, you know, it's however many trees you cut down, you have to replace, because frankly, if they're Norway maples, have at it, like I said. So that's just one thing I want to draw attention to. I really don't think that they need to be at odds with one another. Like somebody else said, we have so many concrete islands in the town that should also be focused on when it comes to replanting or planting trees in general. Before we consider other options, but I'm in favor of the bylaw, but just needs a little bit of tweaking, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. With that said, anybody else in the room? Once, twice, 3 times? All right. So the next person with their hand up is Brandy Kinsman.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thanks so much for the presentation and the discussion tonight. I just had a quick question because I glanced at the bylaw online, but I was curious how this would affect projects like the YMCA and possibly town projects down the road. Would those be applicable to this bylaw, and how would that work?
Do you want to take that?
I would say that has been, if you've watched, the planning board has been discussing this with the sustainability committee on various meetings, and that has come up in our discussions, given that the two Ashland buildings that are just recently constructed, and, a building like the YMCA, which is, kind of a different function. So I would say that it has not been entirely resolved, and it's one of those big questions. It's one of the reasons that we're having this discussion, because the problem is complex, and I don't have a consensus answer for you right now, Brandy.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm concerned, I'm concerned about, businesses coming to town. I'm concerned about, future town projects, but I keep thinking about the YMCA that is going to be fundraising to open a new state-of-the-art facility here in Ashland. And I'm listening to Mike Kane and his numbers with development, and I'm thinking about additional millions that the YMCA might need to raise to basically be able to open. And I'm concerned about that. And I'm in favor of protecting trees. I think that we should look at ways that the sustainability committee may be able to help educate residents on small ways that they can also help protect trees and plant more trees, because I think that would be an important part of the whole tree initiative. But I am concerned about how a blanket tree bylaw might have some downstream impacts that we as a community may or may not be ready for. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have another hand up, and so I'll just jump right to that. Ms. Joan Gunfriday, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Sorry, Joan Gunfriday, One Shore Road. I have a couple of comments. One is, as I understand it, it's if you take down a 10-inch diameter tree, you have to plant 5 trees of 2-inch diameter. If I understand this as an example, if you take down a tree that covers 35 square feet of your lot, you're going to lose 175 square feet of your lot in order to replant that many trees of coverage. And I'm wondering at their full growth. And I'm wondering if one of the collaborations on this may be that you could, instead of 5 trees for every tree, that you do 1 or 2 trees for every tree. I mean, I think that 5 is pretty, it's pretty unfair, because you would lose you'd lose 5 times your land, and I'm not sure how that comes out as being fair. I think that the 12-month look back, I'm concerned if it's only for development projects, that may be one thing I can understand why someone might try to clear their land. But I think if it ends up being for residential also, then I think that's a problem, because I don't think that's fair to a homeowner who took down a tree because they needed to, and now they have to replant. So those are just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. So with no more hands up on the Zoom, and so the last hand that was just raised is Charlie. Charlie, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address?
Hey everyone, Charlie Pine. I'm at 206 East Union Street, and just wanted to say I agree with what Mike Kane said and the woman who came up to the podium. adding that much to builders' cost is just going to make really expensive houses in this town. It's going to turn it into a Dover or Sherborne. And I don't want to live in a town like that. And I don't really want to have the town telling me what I can do and not do with my own property. So thanks for your time. And I just want to say we really need to think about this and what are the unintended consequences of just cramming a whole lot of cost to developers and just ordinary people. Thank you.
All right, so I think we're nearing the end of where we put the public discussion for tonight. I wanted to open it up, just if anyone on the planning board wanted to make any comments. Don't have to, it really was about listening, but I wanted to open up if you did.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm thrilled at the participation, because I know sometimes collectively we get cynical when there's a forum and a discussion. So thank you, people online and coming out, because that's a great starting point. This is maybe partly to Margie and sustainability is one thing. I think collecting some of the questions and like an FAQ out of this, is that at all practical?
I don't know if it's practical, but I think it's important.
Okay, so maybe collectively we can try. We're not going to get every question, and I don't think that's the intent, but at least kind of some of the bulk of them and start working on that.
Yes, I agree. There were a lot of things that were said that we need to address.
Yep.
And respond to.
And then I guess this would be the board and sustainability, like of like kind of next steps about open issues and how do we bring the public along to make sure they're included on that.
I assume we'll keep having more
Yeah.
discussions and forums until we get
Okay.
to something that we feel is really appropriate.
Yeah.
So
No, I
it's
just
certainly not
want-
it's certainly not this one discussion.
No, I agree. I just kind of wanted to put that out there,
Okay.
that it's still, I believe, staying on our planning board meetings, which might be small chunks, and people have access to watch send in comments, et cetera. So, okay, thank you.
Tricia, if I may, this is Ash here.
Ash, can you hold on just a minute? I
Yeah,
want to get through the planning board and then I'll go back to.
Yeah. No worries.
Marcelo?
I just wanted to echo what Kate just said. I've been more than 2 years in the planning board. I don't think I have had so much fun without a plate of food in front of me. It's great to see this level of participation because I liked every single comment. And from the beginning when we started talking about this, we talked about it. I was convinced the most important part is exactly what happened today. And for a specific reason. Because this effort that's coming from the community can only work and it can only pass in reality if it's really what the community wants. And every single one of the points was important. It's very easy to put your blinders on your own pet thought about the tree bylaw and not see what the other viewpoints are. I'm personally in the construction industry, so I understand very well what has been said about cost, and that is very reasonable. But the same is true with the trees. I like the direction of everything, but it has to be holistic. It has to be something that really works. Cannot be just a punitive way to kind of commandeer people into action. I think the action needs to come up from the town, like it's coming. And the last point is the fairness of a regulation is something that I have expressed. The fairness between private and public impact, like Brandy just said, is very important because if there's a burden for the citizens, the town cannot be exempt. I think the government has to be just as participant on the pain and on the benefits of any regulation. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I think listening to everybody, and I hope we have many of these before, so that these can be filtered into something that really works for everybody. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful.
I'm not sure I have more to add than what Marcelo just said, but I think
each of the comments that was suggested, whether for or against, I think had so much value, and I think that's what we were looking for. And I think you have so much takeaway from this evening that I think the idea was to refine it as we go along and march along. I think, thank you so much for the participation, both the positive and the negatives and all the cost breakdown. I think it was totally an eye-opener when you look at numbers that way, and I think we have so much work more to do. What would be helpful, I think, Margie, is to kind of set those timelines where we can boil down those points that were shared tonight and see what we can work and progress so that we have this continuation and come back to the community to say, hey, here are what we heard last time and how can we improve on these 5 things for the next time. And maybe that's how we start to boil down, and I think that would be a great next step for this. So thank you all for amazing participation.
Thank you. And now I'll go back to the Sustainability Committee members, or Ash, ones who I haven't spoken.
Yeah, I'm not sure there are other members. I think Chuck already spoke and Margie's already spoken. So just want to kind of put out there that our goal here was to get something out there that was at least, structurally big, but not so big that no changes could be made, and get community feedback before we would move anything forward, right? Thank you again for the participation. Really appreciate the input. This is exactly what we needed. Our goal is to come back and hold multiple forums, so certainly keep an eye out for it. I think we've got an amount of digestion to do with all the feedback that you've given us, and certainly looking forward to collaborating further with the planning board as well to refine this a little bit further and represent it back to the community to see if at least some of those points have been addressed. Clearly, hearing both the pros, cons, people in favor and this thing, I heard some folks saying that this doesn't go far enough and others saying it goes too far, that there's going to need to be a middle ground, as a community for us to sort of go, okay, this makes sense. And the only way we're going to get there is through debate. So again, thank you for debating it, and we'll make sure that there are additional opportunities for us to do it. This is certainly not intended to be a one and done deal. Thanks, Trish, for hosting it. I think the participation was brilliant.
Thanks, Ash. Margie, did you have any final words? You've spoken enough today.
Before you chase us out, I have a process question.
Sure.
You want me to go up there?
Yes, please.
Things like this have to have a target date. What's your target date for making something happen?
Well, I think
because you're clearly not prepared now. I mean, we're not. We had a nice presentation, but all kinds of issues were brought forward about the lack of data. And even Ashwin recommended or acknowledged that data is not necessarily available to us right now. So when are we going to see the data, and when are we going to see something solid that's going to then go to the town meeting? What's the plan?
Do you have me to
Sorry.
answer? Okay. I mean, I think what the Sustainability Committee has been working toward with the planning board is hoping to do something at May town meeting. But this was our first putting this out there. And I think there's a lot to work through. I'm not sure there's a deadline. I think it's more important, and anyone on either board can disagree with me. It's more important that we put up some things out there that is a warrant out there that's well thought out, that the data is there, that we've had enough opportunities for public participation, that it's well texted, that there aren't mistakes in it, and that may take longer than we were expecting. So
It's going to. I think it's going to.
So it may, right? So I'm saying that on the spot here, we're not going to make that determination. But Margie and the Sustainability Committee will be working on it, with all this feedback that we've been taking, which we take very seriously, and then we'll look at it in that way.
I'm going to upset some people. I'm probably going to upset Ashwin totally. It was a nice presentation, but it was without substance, okay? And I spent enough time on the planning board, 6 years, and enough time on the Board of Selectmen, 14 years, to know that something this substantial ain't gonna happen in May. I'll leave you with that, okay?
I understand, I appreciate your
And
experience.
it should not.
I'm just not going to make a call on the spot at the end of a meeting. We really kind of ended the public participation part of the meeting, and we had asked for, speakers at many times. So we are going to end that at this point. What I was going to wrap up and say is that this is obviously a very complex issue, as other people on the board have very clearly stated, and other people on the Sustainability Committee have stated, that it was very informative to get this kind of discourse back and forth. I think part of the planning board's role, as you know from being on it for many years, is that we have many different things to balance, right? We're not in the court of one particular, it's not just about sustainability or just about business or just about affordable housing or just about health or just about anything. The planning board actually has to look at all of those considerations and try to find something that works for the town. And as you noted, that can take a very long time. And we're not about to, at least speaking for myself, but I think I can speak for the board, we're not out to put anything out there quick and dirty. That is not our intention. We want something that's appropriate for Ashland and that will withstand the test of time, and that is something good. And though good things always take time. So obviously that's up to the Sustainability Committee and the board as a whole, not just me. But we will have to be looking at it, which is why I can't give you an answer just from me. But we do appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming out. It's great to see all these bodies in the room and to have this kind of discussion. We're honest about that. We're really glad to hear all of the discourse. And if you have any other comments, please send them to us. You can send them to the planning board, and Peter Matchik will distribute them to both boards. So, all right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. It's great.
Thanks, everyone.
Make sure you guys have your microphones like 10 to 12, 10 inches.
Yeah.
I don't know that the public is able to hear you, unfortunately.
I'll see you later, Samantha. I'll keep that. Yeah. You can just leave that on the edge of the table. I'll take care of that after the meal. Sign-in sheet. Yeah. Yeah. I just did a sign-in sheet. Yeah, you can just pull it right out of there. Yeah.
Oh, I guess we need to have, is Ash still online?
Oh, Ash has to, no, Ash is not. We'll just say you closed the public.
We're just going to say that the, what was that, Margie?
But I don't know why.
We will just say that the public hearing for that Sustainability Committee is closed because they're all leaving. Okay. All right, everybody. Next on our agenda is clerk's report. That was a big gap.
We have received 5 correspondence since the last planning board meeting. And then related to clerk's duty, I did mention at the last, the 400, what was that? For the cellular tower, the board received a lot of comments, like right very close, and the sort of responses that we approved to send on the board did not feel appropriate to me, but they also didn't fall on the we said Peter would answer specifics, so there's sort of a holding pattern. If the board, I believe that we do want to respond to people. So I sent a draft of something that was a little more tailored to, we've received, I think, 9 comments on that project.
Peter's going to print that out. He didn't get it printed out.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring copies.
I have a copy,
But it wasn't in the materials.
It was a follow-up into the materials.
Oh, okay, because I read the original, I guess, if there's another version. No? Okay.
we could also put it up online, if that's easier. Do you want to just put it up online?
Yep, I just gotta.
Okay. Yeah, so Kate had drafted a response, excuse me, that would be specifically for those people that were writing in regarding the cell tower.
I'm sorry, I'm happy to print it too, I have it shared on the screen.
So the first paragraph is part of our standard. The second paragraph is related to, I think something along that line's appropriate to that project, the comments, which I believe I said is total 9. And hopefully some of those people heard that I hadn't, so they do know that we intend to, but I don't want to wait too long, I guess.
No, I think it's appropriate. Yeah, so really, we're looking at the second paragraph here. I think even the first half of that is really just about factual what happened. I would say for me, I would just be looking for a little rewording of the sentence that starts, "The board acknowledges," right in the middle.
I was going to say the same.
Because I think it starts to imply that the board as a whole is making a suggestion that residents should put together a citizen's partition, when really it's not what we didn't discuss or vote on that. Like, it was more like a suggestion was made. It was.
I agree. The way I understood it was a suggestion of a recourse that existed for those who were interested in pursuing it, but not as something that was coming from the board. So I'm not comfortable saying it that way.
Not a directive.
I don't think I'm even trying, it's just a word. So if we just said the board, we basically heard that people were interested in that. Is that true? I mean, that's what
No. There was a suggestion by some of the comments from the public that the board should put a stop to the project and that the board had the authority to do so. There was discussion on those terms. And what was said from the table is that we were not allowed to that bylaw, but that efforts to change the bylaw to make our town more more defensive against the federal law would be a recourse for the public to enact and pass a town hall meeting change of the bylaw.
So what about that sentence, "The board acknowledges hearing intended," strike at that and then say that there could, like, we're referring them to the citizens petition, just simple, get rid of.
The question is, why do we need to say that? I mean, I would just repeat, it's basically it's almost like meeting notes.
Well,
not a response.
The citizen, I feel like I would want to be, like, we were valuing people here, so I want to guide them if they're interested. It's on the website, but our website is not super user-friendly. So I mean, if you asked 18,832 people in Ashland, I don't know how many of those people would know that they could do this.
Agreed.
So the intent is to kind of give them some guidelines to, hey, here is the.
Like, try to keep it low-key, but try to be helpful, I guess, is.
But what I was just, and I agree with that, but what I'm saying is that if this is what we're trying to be responsive to the questions and the things that were brought up. So I think the response should squarely stay in that intent to respond and say, we heard this and that. And we also discussed with the public the possibility that the public may pursue that avenue, right? If the bylaw is something that the public in general is not happy with.
It's just wordsmithing, I believe, yeah, exactly.
Few lines are a suggestion
Something
from
like
your
that.
end of, hey, here is a possible thing, so we have to figure out how to break the two.
It could just be as simple as, instead of the board acknowledges, it could be something as simple as, it was noted that, it was noted that residents are always able to, it was noted that residents are always able to create a citizen's partition, a citizen's petition for consideration at town meeting, the process and form for which is given here, you know.
I think that works.
So it's not, yeah, it's not putting a board opinion on it.
No, that wasn't my.
No, I understand. It's obviously hard for the four of us.
It's a long sentence,
Yeah.
but at the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
time, it's hard to.
But something like that will do it, because it will clarify that, yeah, we heard this, and the possibility.
The
that
other
the
thing is,
option there.
I don't know if Peter published Lisa Mead's letter with that case. So if it's not published, I think I have to attach it. But if it's published, I can just refer people. We can just refer people to.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. I'm happy to add that to that.
So then we
case.
can just say, right, reference that letter on, see the link here.
We could do that, hyperlink it.
Yeah.
Just put a hyperlink in, and that's 100%. That's actually pretty easy. That's very easy to do.
So where it says reference December letter, and then I can put the link.
Right there.
And then with that sentence, let me know when you're ready.
Sure.
Oh, so where it starts, the board acknowledges, instead of that, it would be, it was noted that residents are allowed to pursue bylaw changes through a citizen's petition, information on which can be found here, or something like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Is that-
Did you write it? Is your handwriting readable?
It's readable to me.
Architect's handwriting, how can it not be readable?
Let's see.
It's the bottom blue. Yeah.
Well, okay, how about, like, this is fine, like, can I just get me and Trish look at the last
Yeah,
draft, and is that?
I think
okay?
it's fine.
And we will clean that up, so
Yeah,
cool,
and
thank
then
you.
you can send it. yeah.
Okay, so next on our agenda, public comment. It seems like so long ago that we started the meeting. And there is one hand up for public comment. I will limit it to 3 minutes, since we've already had a lot of public comment.
Mr. Mark DeSoni, can you please unmute yourself and state your name and address? You have 3 minutes for public comment.
Okay, Mark Sony, 49 Hawthorne Road, Ashland, Mass. Good evening. And the reason why I'm not there is because I just was watching the all that tree bylaw and citizen participation, which made me feel proud that people come out to do this, to talk about it, and you gave them the time and the effort. And I congratulate Margie and sustainability for bringing it up. And that letter is like you acknowledging, the board's at large acknowledging about citizens' participation for this cell phone tower too. But now you're understanding that citizens need to be heard, and if they want to be heard at town meeting, they need to have a petition that's going to be signed and spoke of. So I'm glad the board is turning around to say that this is what it is, as not just the board being the board. There are citizens that they know and they're out there to hear, or they're hearing back from. Other than that, Happy New Year. And all throughout the house, all throughout the town, everything's going well. And I know I wasn't there for that because a little too crowded for me. It's condensed and everything, and I was watching here on TV. So I thank you for the time and citizen participation. Live what's on and stay with that thinking and be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. I don't think we have any other hands raised for public participation. Then next on our agenda are public hearings. First one of those is 320 Pond Street. This one has requested a continuance. Peter, can you just update about where that is?
Yeah, just a quick update. Last week, the applicant of 320 Pond Street met with the Design Review Committee. I was on the meeting, and it was a good conversation. And the takeaway was that the applicant is going to refresh its landscaping plan after receiving comments from the Design Review Committee, and they're going to resubmit those on the first meeting, the first Design Review Committee, they're going to submit comments and get back on the Design Review Board's agenda the first meeting in February. And so we will see 230 Pond Street on our first meeting in February. So they have asked for a continuance until February 9th. They've also included and have agreed to move the final date of decision to March 1st. Also in our packets, I did print out the tech review meeting. One of the comments from the tech review meeting was the placement of the dumpster enclosure. And so I have connected the fire department and the application team for further discussion regarding that trash enclosure. So those are the big items. We'll wait for the design review comments letter, which hasn't been sent in, a report which hasn't been submitted, but I just wanted to kind of bring everybody up to speed on what's going on with that project. So right now they're going back to the design review next before we will see them on the 8th of February. 9th, I'm sorry.
You have 8th on the paper. Wait. So,
Do I?
yes.
I'm sorry.
And you have 8th for our next meeting, so is it 8th?
It's the 8th. You know what? I'm looking on their request and it's the 9th. You're right, the 8th.
So they're requesting to go on the 9th, but
It's really the 8th.
no way, I'm not being here on a Friday night.
No, that's a typo.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a typo.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue the 320 Pond Street site plan approval to the next meeting, February 8th.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that, subject to the decision to March 1st? Because that was, if they're pushing that, right, that, you said that
Yep.
they requested
Yep,
that.
they
but-
agreed to it.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that. I
Yep.
thought they requested, but we probably, I didn't know
No,
that. I
the
didn't.
final date, the date of final action is
Okay.
agreed to be moved to March 1st.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. In that case, is there a second?
Second that.
And a roll call vote?
Deepa Venkata.
Marcelo Hona, aye.
Catherine Jersey guy.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So that is continued. Next on our agenda is 949 Homer Avenue, site plan and special permit application. This was continued from November 30th. And
Yes, we have a lot of materials, which is awesome. And I
we
wanna-
actually, there's, so I think the two focuses of the meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter. One is to look at these materials, which are on the other side of the desk here, but also including, just for DEPA, is a window. And happy holidays. And I think the second part is just to review the updated, the items list, of the
Yeah.
outstanding items list, to see where that falls.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Peter, do you want to give an update kind of about where that is?
Let me
right now?
introduce, obviously, and reintroduce Terry Morris and Ron Bork. They're the application team. So just to kind of note from the last time we have met, the applicant, right before the holiday break, they did submit revised site plans. They also have they have submitted a comment letter back to GCG, which is dated December 21st. And then addition, with the request of the planning board, they did, from MDM Transportation Consultings, submit a memorandum regarding the proposed mixed-use development in a traffic count memo, which was requested by GCG. And so with that, all this information came in. Right now, it is, and I've confirmed, I've spoken with Terry and Ron on numerous occasions. I've also spoken to Rick Salvo, who's the civil engineer, who's not with us on the call tonight. However, I had a lengthy conversation with him, and all the plans and items are actually at GCG for review. I spoke to Mike Carter today, face-to-face. He was actually here in Town Hall helping out with the downtown project. And so him and I were able to kind of touch base on the review process. So he was going to do that. He was going to start looking at it. Obviously, I think everyone kind of understands everyone was on kind of holiday break. And so that is on the top of his pile, and to move this project and to look at that. And so that's where things kind of stand. So I feel, you know, that we are in a good spot regarding the review of the civil engineering process and with the submittal of the traffic counts. On a further note, I know the board asked for a email from Lisa Mead regarding an opinion. I did email Lisa prior to break, and Lisa is working on an opinion. I was able to speak with her today. She's actually in the office on Wednesdays. And so I was able to touch base with her, and she, you know, and I explained what the request is from the planning board and what's going on. And so I think I will have that to the board within days. And it won't be too long to actually have that opinion, which I will share immediately with both the board and the applicant regarding the special conditions and the grinder pump within the wastewater system, which was spoken upon by the DPW in the tech review. And so that is coming. It's on my radar. And so it's just in process.
Is it worth, since we're talking about this stuff right now, to bring up that items list, the outstanding items list, and just see where we are?
Sure, I'm happy to do so.
I don't remember if it's been updated recently, or.
So
if it's
this
still
one
in
is from
this-
November 1st, and I just haven't got around to it. I'm happy to kind of pass it around, and I think, Terry, I shared this with you back when. But I can just kind of read it. Number one was the environmental impact environmental impact study.
And I think I almost think we,
And we had it, and this is the what they had developed from.
So my recollection of that, Stan, that when that first came, I said, do we have a common understanding of what that is? And I don't think we do, because we got something from the applicant. It was sent to GCG. I don't think we've heard back. What that was saying is, I don't think there's any contaminated soil there, like I don't even think they called it like a phase one, but maybe it was similar. But that is not really what I was thinking based on what design review originally raised as an issue.
can you, yeah, and I guess we'd have to go back and ask what exactly we want GCG to look at then. Because actually, I'm not sure it's worth going over this list, because this list is actually, we've updated it since then. This one is still talking about getting information from the police and fire departments, which we already have those letters.
Okay.
So, I hate to go back through, hash through, yeah, that. Instead, I think we can update it, and, is it something we can update, send out, and put on the website so that it's public?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone sees questions on here that they want to adjust, but it's like, we've already went through a lot of these, actually.
And just quick question, because you say GCG is reviewing the latest information, right?
Correct, yeah.
So I remember in one of those meetings, we said that we wanted GCG to opine on this specific item. Is that something
We can
that's
do that.
included in? Let's make sure it's included in their memo so that we can actually
Yep.
cross it off.
I'm working with, I'm happy to reach back out to Mike Carter today. He got all the information. He's gonna take a bit, take a look at it and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of important to know. It's kind of what we're asking, because environmental impact study can mean a lot of things. Yeah. So, and I'm not even sure what's intended. So we'd want to go back to, I think it did come from the design review committee to see maybe what they were looking at, to see if those things.
So it was about like how this kind of construction could potentially have impacts to facilities near it, right? And that was sort of, that was the flavor of it.
Water, sewer, what do you mean facilities? Have impact to facilities?
If, like the water table and all those kind of things.
Okay.
So it was very broad brush. I asked this question earlier, like, do we have a
Right.
common understanding of it? I don't think we do. I think personally that I believe what the applicant submitted was sent to GCG. If they think that's adequate, I'm not here to rejudge that.
Right.
What I can say is it absolutely did not meet the request that the design review brought up that we all sort of thought was important to at least talk about.
Yeah, that's why I said I'll have to go back to it, because it doesn't sound like anyone has a clear memory of just being able to describe what that was.
But just to narrow
So-
it down, from the point of view of, beyond that, but GCG is doing the review, from the point of view of construction, engineering, and code compliance, that's what GCG is gonna tell us
Yes.
when everything works.
Correct.
At that point, like Kate said, we were not going to second guess GCG on that.
Correct.
So the important thing is that GCG includes all these, whatever items that are really outstanding in their memo, so that it's just one last
Letter.
letter, yeah.
Yep. And if that's in the flavor of, there shall be no blasting, there
Yes.
should be no whole it's
But that
gonna
was
be-
already.
That's
confirmed
already
by-
been taken
it's
care of.
already
So
confirmed by
on,
the owner.
yeah, and that's why I'm wondering, because on, this isn't the latest, this is Design Review Committee Report 2. This is before Marcelo and I responded to it. But I see on page 5, under Site and Landscape, and maybe this isn't the only time it's mentioned, but under Site and Landscape, it says, we recommend that an environmental impact study be conducted to assess the impact on the surrounding buildings and their foundations. So, and I think, right, and so I think that was the result of my question, that resulted in my question, does GCG have a recommendation not to permit blasting at the site? Now, when we talked to Mike Carter on site, Peter and I, looking at the site, he just said that it just wouldn't be done in the middle of a downtown area. But if we want to put in a condition where we just call out no blasting, then that's maybe, that was what I was asking for from GCG.
Okay, but you're assuming that's the only impact about blasting.
Right,
That would be potentially missing other issues. I think it just needs to be generic, pretty much the way the design review asked the question of the third party.
Right,
Not lead them to only blasting.
That's fine. I'm just saying what the
But also not,
conversation I had.
but also not make it vague enough that
Yeah.
it cannot be answered.
Correct.
It has to be consistent with building code regulations and standard engineering practices, not just widely appropriate. I don't know. The comment of blasting was raised with the civil engineer here, and I think even Attorney Morris or somebody in the team confirmed they're not going to do blasting. So we could put it as a condition, although we know the answer already, and I think that that has been said a lot. That's why I'm thinking if GCG can give us a report that is comprehensive, that from the point of view of the codes, the regulations, and the accepted practices of engineering and construction, this project complies.
Okay.
It gives us the assurance, right?
And like I said, unless there was any other reference, that's where I found the reference, the environmental impact study. Maybe there's another reference. I didn't make it through the whole document, but we can double check to see if there was another point of interest under that subject. So anyway, the bottom line is that we're still sending things to GCG to kind of make sure, and to Lisa Mead, to make sure everything that we had on this list has an answer.
Correct.
And that has been resolved. But like I said, I hate to go through this list because it's out of date. We have some of this information already. So that'll be top priority to kind of get that summarized again with the documentation. The other part, I think, of the meeting tonight is looking at these colors.
Let's do it.
Yes. And so, Attorney Morris and Ron, I know you're going to give your presentation from Zoom. Is there any items that you want to open up with, or do you want me to just organize the two material samples?
Peter, I think that our expectation was that we would be focusing on resolving the color issue, since a considerable part of the last meeting, the discussion at that meeting was devoted to this issue. So I think it's appropriate to start with that one, if you would.
At the window.
Okay, I'm just gonna take a minute and we're gonna organize everything on the table, and then you can give the presentation and walk us through.
I will be dependent upon Ron to do that, since it's an architectural item and he was responsible for assembling the materials that are before you tonight.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll share my screen.
Okay. I just wanted to turn the volume up in the room.
That would be helpful, Peter. Thank you.
Peter, can you enable screen sharing, please?
Yeah. Just a little bit louder if you could, WACA.
I got it at max.
You got it at max? Okay. Okay, Ron, you are a co-host.
Thank you.
Yes. Still the same.
I'm assuming you can see my screen with the first image?
We can.
Okay.
Just hold on, Ron.
Yep, no problem.
We're still organizing.
Wasn't there a board? That one. That's gonna be.
This has got a name, actually. Maybe that's helpful.
Yeah.
So that's better than this. This is labeled, no?
Yeah.
Yep, that's all.
It's just extra.
This is just extra, yep.
This is all the same as that.
Correct. That one. All right, Ron, I'll just moderate, but I think the planning board is ready for the presentation. All material is laid out on the table, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So the first image we have is the board, which represents the cooler colors. And what's common to both options is the board that has the white trim on it. So that'll be consistent. And the other two boards will be based on the color tones of the building. So as you can see, there should have been an 11 by 17 of this image so that you could look at it against the materials. And this is an accurate representation of those, I believe. So we were looking at a brick veneer on the insets that was similar to the adjacent pizza building. Try and pick up that vocabulary so that we can show that continuity. We have the white border of the composite trims, and then on the gables, the lower second floor of the gables which come out would be the 4-inch composite gray slate. We'd have a water table above that, and the gable would be a shingle style, and that would be the 7-inch night gray. Moving on to the area where the brick is, that's the inset. We would have a 6-inch composite siding, which is pearl gray on the mid-level, and the upper level would share the same night gray siding. The lighter roofing color is the Owens Corning's driftwood, so there should be a panel there with that. And the brick that I'll show in the next images for the paving is the similar to the downtown brick. When I show those images, you'll see the patterning that we've done in the plaza. For the next board, which are the warmer colors, the same vocabulary for the building, same order of things, just different color palette. So the brick inset veneer is again similar to the adjacent building, and then on the gable second floor we have the 4-inch baked clay with a 7-inch mud flats cedar shingle, composite shingle above. On the inset, we have a 6-inch composite straw hat for the second floor, and the continuity of the shingle in the dormer above. The window that you've seen on the rear wall is low E glass standard window. Are there any questions on that before I move on to the plaza?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
So Peter and I walked from the downtown, from the town hall through to the site to get it was for me to get a little better understanding, or both of us get an understanding of how that patterning worked on the sidewalk. And there's a general theme that has some nuances to it because of the width of the sidewalk and the positioning. And as we approached the building where the sidewalk narrowed, where the
Pizza
the
Mine.
adjacent building is, we found that it would be possible, but probably not the best use to use the brick on that very narrow section. So as we open up to the site, we started with a border along the sidewalk curbing that would be consistent with the downtown, and that would be a 1-foot border of the downtown brick. And then we would have our concrete sidewalk, and then our plaza itself would also be of that material. So now we're extending that vocabulary that you've created in the downtown to the point of being at Alden Street. So as future development happens, you'll have already established that edge. And you can see from the plan with the sort of axon or the ISO, we do have, that consistency. It generally falls where the telephone poles are. There's one pole where it's a little more on the sidewalk, the pole itself, so the brick will basically bisect the pole. But in other instances, it essentially falls within the field of the brick. And then these are additional images from more of a street level view. And that's what I have for this. So if there are any questions, I welcome them.
Well, one quick question. In this rendering, have you made any changes to the plazas entering the building? They seem to have more brick than I remember them, but has there been any change there?
Well, one of the earlier changes was to inset the benches. For example, in this upper level the upper plan to the left, you'll see the bench is inset flush with the building, so we took inset into the landscaping slightly. Other than that, I think the reason it reads more is because there's less material variety than there was before. Where earlier, if you remember, I had the brick was at the introduction to the plaza, and then we had a patterning of a different material. So by making that all the same material, you've essentially, visually, looks like it's increased the area, but it really hasn't.
The material change.
I think he had a stone paver or something
Yeah.
like that, which is great, yeah. I love the bordering of that walkway. I think that really adds a little bit to the drama. And there's a lot less distraction at the entry with kind of uniforming with that brick.
Less busy,
Yeah. But I wonder if you have challenge. Looks like your warm palette, the transition and the brick seems to match exactly versus your cooler palette, the transition brick and the brick that you're suggesting for the facade seems to be different. So I don't know if
I'm sorry, the volume was very low. I couldn't make out what you were saying.
So this is not what the town would do?
No,
well,
Which is not wrong, I guess, we could always.
I think there's a.
So they did give us bricks.
They stole bricks.
I stole bricks. So in the essence, so I think this is the correct size brick, right? But this is a little bit more orangey than what's existing. So this brick is very close. The color, it's just the brick big. It's a little bit bigger.
So what is this?
So that.
So this one is like kind of the same.
Well, correct. That's the color.
It's just the color.
Little closer
stamp. Yeah. Definitely.
Yes, I think the thing is like, are we leaning warm or leaning cool? I do want to say that, Ron, that we appreciate the samples. Like, I would say you even went above and beyond, like, on the sample, because there's some things here, obviously, that maybe we don't need. But to have this kind of samples, this is kind of what we needed, everything labeled. And it was interesting because the renderings, and kind of just the point of how difficult it is, we got the renderings, and my first question was, where's the blue? Where's the blue clapboard? Because it looks blue on the printed renderings, but it's gray. Yeah. So it's really important, obviously, to be able to see these things. I don't think we'll be hauling them outside, but,
Yeah, that's really the double-edged sword with computer renderings, it depends what it's printed on.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Can't trust it.
Do you want to see the rendering? No. You see the real stuff live.
Yeah, this is more.
You can see the renderings, but the colors just don't.
Come out.
No. They don't. It's not the same.
So my question is, what is the next step? Is this something that, or is it something that's part of the, just procedural? Is it part of the condition, or is this going to be a suggestion, or?
No, I think we can, what we don't want to do is what happened with, say, 12 Front Street.
Yeah.
Where we said, hey, we'll pick the colors later, and then it comes back.
And it's different. Yeah.
Well, and it just comes back to haunt, and we don't want to deal with it later.
Yeah.
So we want to deal with it right now and say, we picked this color palette.
Okay.
That's in the, it's either on the latest renderings, dated, blah, 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 cool scheme, or whatever, warm scheme, whatever we picked.
Okay.
No,
So
yeah,
we'll take it.
exactly.
So before we do that, can we ask for the opinion of the architect?
Sure.
Yes.
Just to have we don't have to agree with that.
Marcelo?
So, Ron, is Ron?
Yeah.
Right, Ron, so before we kind of make a discussion here to see which palette we prefer, can you give us your designer opinion of what would you go with personally and why, so that can inform what we discuss here?
I think my preference would be what's on the screen. And the reason being is I think the colors provide interest. There's a little, there's enough variation in them that the elements seem to pop a little more. And it's also, I think, more in tune with the colonial nature.
So you're talking about the cool scheme?
The cool scheme, right. The brick, I think if we pick up that brick patterning or the brick coloring of the adjacent building, it helps to provide that continuity of, it looks like it really fits in. I think we've done a lot of really good things, and I appreciate your input, as difficult as it was sometimes, but I think that this would be my personal preference. Charlie, if you want to weigh in on yours and your reasoning, that would be great. I know Charlie likes the warmer colors.
I think that you and the board should make the decision, Ron.
Okay.
I don't want to have them say I picked
All right,
the wrong
no,
colors.
that's fine. I just wanted to. I know that you seem to like the more earth tones.
I think we kind of were going in these two directions because the brick in town seemed to be a cool brick, but the brick of the train station seemed to be a warm brick, a more orangey brick, right? And that's kind of got us going in these two different directions. I mean, I think I prefer the cool scheme. I think it could work either way, but I think the cool scheme gives it a little bit more. I think it is a little bit more colonial. I like how it ties in with downtown, which I think is more important maybe than the pathway, which is so prominent in downtown, is more important than trying to match a brick across the street, I think, for me. I also think it's just, and maybe some people won't like this, I think it's a bit more modern. And this is a little bit, I don't know, more rural kind of looking to me versus the grays. But that's where I would land, but I'm interested in where everybody else lands.
Can you speak kind of closer to the microphone?
I personally agree with Tricia. I think connecting to the downtown more directly is better, and I personally think that the variation of architecture that the building already provides a lot of interest and variety, and I think those colors kind of allow the architecture to express its shapes. When you start adding sometimes a lot of extra color or texture to a massing or a composition, it can kind of distract of the essence. And I think it's actually nice that it goes different than what the train station is, because this ties to the downtown. The train station remains unique, and that's, I think, it's a plus. So I agree.
I agree as well. I think I do love the cool palette, and I think this whole project is going to be something that's literally a showcase as you turn around the corner. So I don't think anybody would think of connecting the palette on the train station to this particular project. So I think there's a good synergy in all those elements, and I think each one picks up the colors from the other. So I think it's a great palette that's there. The warmer palette, I think it'll just merge in that. It'll not be a project that's going to stand out. So I don't know if we have that as the intention, but I think cooler palette definitely is going to stand out. So I love the palette too.
I will let the professionals decide, but I do like the, and I think I was going to point out the brick tying in. Like I remember Kevin asking for that way back, and I feel like that does help make it continuous with the downtown. I think it will look like we sort of did actually plan it.
All right, so it looks like, do we need to take an official vote on the cool palette?
Okay.
That would be nice.
All right, I will make a motion that the planning board supports the cool palette as presented, the colors as presented, for 9 to 49 Main Street.
Second that.
And a roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Marcelo Hona, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So there we have a color palette. Woo-hoo.
I have a question. Do we have, because, I mean, probably in the decision, we'll need the exact, right?
Could be the
Yeah, they
color,
are
the color names or numbers.
And like, yeah, okay,
The
but
product
that probably
numbers.
has to go part of it. We can't just say the cool palette, right? in
No,
our
no,
decision.
no.
I think, I think from that point on, I will take
Start
the.
translating now.
Yeah, we'll translate what was, obviously, Ron did a great job, and I think the application team, again, is they submitted the cool and the warm, right? What will be approved, and I can ask Ron just to kind of put an updated, a date on it, and then that will be approved off of that. And then obviously, we can mention the colors of the hardy plank in the decision to kind of really kind of formalize that. That's just kind of adding additional language to the decision, and then kind of moving forward.
Excuse me, Pete, I just want to, Tricia said 9 to 49 Main Street. It's Van Raff.
I always do that. 9 to 49 Homer. I always say Main Street. Sorry. I don't know why.
I want to make sure we're approving the right colors.
Yes.
The right street.
9 to 49 Homer Ave.
And the one thing I will say, no one brought it up, but I feel like 128 Main Street, looking at that building, is closer to this palette with a gray or with a more khaki color building. So I think the cool is adds a little bit of diversity, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think that was
Yeah.
Navajo beige maybe over there or something like that.
Yeah, I just know there are all these hardy board playing terms that
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. So, and the border along the side, so in that we were also, just to confirm, we were also approving the sidewalk design that did, okay, with the,
I think so.
with the border and the,
I think what was presented today is much better, and I think it ties better, more appropriately with the downtown project, which was all along the objective, including the change in the plazas. Now, just by looking at it, you can tell that it belongs more in the downtown than it did before. So I don't.
Okay.
Do we need a?
well, I
like
think
a
that'll be
separate motion
included
for
in the drawings, like,
Yeah.
it'll be on the site plan or whatever.
Yeah, I guess these renderings or whatever the final ones should
Yeah.
be included as part
Yeah.
of it. So
Yeah.
there's a record.
There'll be a record, obviously, and I think as the plan, obviously, the revised site plans from a civil standpoint are being reviewed. But yeah, and I'm sure, Terry and Rick will update those plans to include the brick stripe that is obviously throughout the downtown.
Yeah, so I would say it would be good to, I'm sure you're not in a hurry to come haul all this away again, but it would be good to have it in the office so that Amanda and Anna can at least see what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Before the ones we aren't using are picked up, the ones that were,
And actually, if you put them like that, ideally outside, and just take a picture, and have the picture part of the record.
Okay, I can do that. That's not a problem. Yeah, no, I can keep these in the office for Amanda and Anna, or as they come in and they can kind of check it out.
yeah,
So, yeah, that's,
I'm not sure they've had a chance to take a look and see. So.
yep, that's no problem. I'm happy to do so.
All right, then, do we have anything else on this project tonight? It seems like we got through a big hurdle here tonight.
I think that's correct, Madam Chair.
And then we have other things that are going to GCG. We're waiting for Lisa Mead, and we'll go through that list kind of with a fine-tooth comb, but I think we're getting down to the nitty-gritty on that list as well.
Yeah, I think we're getting down to the
Yeah.
eliminating items one by one. And
One
I
by
think-
one, yep.
I think we could just need to continue to do so and with respect for both parties, and we just can kind of obviously move, trot through the process and move forward.
Great. All right.
And I'll continue working with Terry and Ron and Rick and Charlie and Terry, I'm sure I'll be on the phone with you tomorrow.
Then when would we
Okay.
be looking, looking to see this again? Are we looking
So-
2 weeks?
I think 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks is
To wrap up.
appropriate. I think at this point, I think I'm expecting to, hear from Lisa and from Mike Carter soon. And I can also express some of these points of interest that need to be addressed. And so I think we should have a good update of where things stand at the next meeting. And then also with 320 Pond coming back in February, I think there's plenty of room on our next agenda. And our next agenda, we will also hear, we'll finish that later, but obviously I think we have room on our next agenda and we can kind of continue the momentum.
All right, so maybe in the meantime, you and I can work on the updated list and get it out to the board with any documentation that goes along with that list. And that'll leave room for anyone to address any remaining questions, anything that is still jumping out as part of that.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it a bunch, and I'm sure it's on the radar screen, but I don't think that sustainability checklist is on here. Did I miss it? And I know you said that has to be updated, but I don't think that's on here.
Yeah, I think it's on the new version.
Okay.
But I'll add it to this one to check.
So, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So when are we looking to come back? And I'm wondering if there's depending upon the intervening period, whether it's appropriate to work on a draft decision?
I'm always in favor of working on the draft sooner rather than later, because there's a lot of information to make sure we put in there, like the colors or the sustainability things. So, Peter, if you have time to start to put that together, because that's a long discussion, even once we get to looking at the decision, to go through it point by point.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Tristan.
No.
No, I think I'm happy, and I think I'm ready to kind of take a look at it. I think everything at hand, I can start to do that. So
Is that okay with the board?
I'm fine.
Obviously, that is not the same as a vote, but sometimes I also feel it starts to clarify and helps us to pinpoint issues. Yeah.
The majority of this is also resolved, so it's just that boilerplate that may help us to kind of nail down some of those finer details.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so then we will be continuing this until our next meeting on June 25th? No, June.
I'm sorry.
January 25th. We'll continue 9 to 49 Main Street until June 25th.
May.
Yeah. That was on purpose. All right, can I have someone who's going to make the motion properly?
I make a motion, we continue the hearing for 9 to 49 Homer Ave to meeting on February 8th.
Oh,
No, January 25th.
Oh,
January 25th.
Oh,
2 weeks.
okay. I'm sorry, and that 9 to 49 Homer site plan and special permit application to January 25th.
And a second?
Second,
Roll call vote?
Deepa Vangadai.
Marcelo Hona, aye.
Catherine Jersey.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. And we already have,
Yes.
the date is already out there somewhere?
Yep. March 1st.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. We're very happy that you're pleased with the color scheme.
Well, thanks for, I'm sorry it's very old school of us, but thanks for hauling all this stuff in. It obviously it just made it much easier to look at, So thank you for that.
You're most welcome.
All right, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Happy New Year.
You too. All right, next on our agenda, we'll go for item 6. Is there any updates or
No,
reports, anything that?
I do not have any, I'm sorry.
We all had a holiday. There are some things under 7. Kate, did you want to give a report on comprehensive plan?
Just sure to remind people, the next meeting is January 18th, and we will have an update from the consultant about the public forum. And then we're getting heavy into the, like, recruiting public opinion phase, so you all start working on your friends and a plan to engage them.
Yeah, I'm also really interested in, and I'm sure the information's coming in the proper order, but the meeting in a box concept and what that is, and are we a meeting in a box? Like, is that something will happen even at the planning board level? Or is that really for the committees further down the line?
It's all of the above. I mean, it's really to recruit as many people as possible. It's to the widespread, and thinking that some people won't be able to come out or can't come to a forum, but it's more on their own time. Like, I can do a Wednesday night in my living room and I get a few neighbors.
Oh,
but
okay.
it's not in any way to limit. Like, I haven't really gone forward, but way back in the summer, I talked to some of the people, the senior at Park Road, and they have a activity room and like meeting there and getting people. So it's really all of the above and as many people as possible.
In that meeting in a box kind of format, like, I assume that's I'm just kind of curious what it is. I mean, she keeps, the consultant
No,
talks about
I
this
know. I
doing
asked
that.
for the elevator speech version of it because I've been recruiting people, but I can't, you need the elevator speech version.
Yeah, I'm
And
curious about this.
We don't have it. I mean,
Okay.
Hopefully January 18th, I
Okay.
can try to ask again. Because I think it's so familiar to them. It's a
Yeah.
I mean, you can look up the concept. She said I didn't invent it. But
Okay.
I think the general thing is you took one of those surveys. It's a version of that at a smaller scale. Keep replicating. Someone came to your meeting, you asked them to go do 5 of their friends.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I hope that we can get to the point of doing like a business roundtable, right? Of a separate, meeting in a box for the business roundtable,
Mhm.
separate, like sustainability, whatever. I mean, it's going to take a lot of effort. So I think that we'll see how it shakes out, but that would be my goal. I already have a list of like 40 people that I got one no so far. They didn't say they know they won't come. They said no, they won't host it. So, yeah.
All right.
But yeah.
All right, cool. Because this is a big next stage you're entering
Mhm.
into. The next 6 months are kind of the critical information gathering, right? Data gathering. So, okay. All right, design review committee. I do have a couple things on that.
Yes.
Is it,
And actually, I printed out,
was that something I was supposed to hand along? Yeah.
yes, this is,
So, on, I think it was
December 12th.
December 12th, right, which was, yeah, we're right in the middle of a lot of other things, I think. But a town bank forum did come in for David, I don't know how to pronounce it, Spatara?
Spatara.
Spatara. So I think since that time, since December 12th, he has attended a design review committee meeting. I think they are going to be having some kind of report or summary for us, on that. So maybe on our next meeting, we will be having David come to the next meeting, and I may try to reach out to him before that on behalf of the planning board if everyone thinks usually I do, so everyone thinks that's a good idea. I think on this, it really said select board, but of course, select board isn't involved in this particular, this is the one committee that select board isn't involved in. So,
Design review committee is looking for more people to add.
they have one opening in the alternate, like there's 2 alternates, and they have one opening as an alternate member. But so the design review committee met on Thursday. It's recorded, it's a little bit of a bear to download the recording, but if anyone wants it, Peter has it. And so I watched that recording because it involved 320 Pond Street, Mozzie, so I wanted to see how that went. And then they had also talked about this candidate at the end, and I had really forgotten that I had glanced this in my email. I think it went to all of us, but on December 12th, and immediately got buried in everything else that was going on. So, so I went back and looked, and Peter we found this and we printed it out, and I already apologized to the design review committee that I didn't see it, you know, and no one from the design review committee reached out about it either, so I think everyone was just busy. But then I assume this will be on our next meeting, looking at this application, so for that position. The other thing I just wanted to make sure I reviewed with the planning board in regard to that meeting. So that was the meeting they were looking at Mozzie, and they had received the planning board memo that you guys had received too. I think we received it more recently. Marcella and I put it together right before Christmas, but I wanted to get it to them before their January meeting. And we spelled out things according to the bylaw, as we did for 9 to 49 Homer Ave, and the things that are defined under the bylaw that describes the design review committee's jurisdiction. So we did that and sent it to them. There was a little, and they went through those. They went through those. There was a little confusion at the end of the meeting about, because we had referenced, Marcella and I had referenced on there, to review the sustainability checklist in reference to the items that we listed below, like in reference to the bylaw. So at the end of the meeting, they were kind of, I think, a little confused about, oh, we didn't go through the sustainability checklist. We didn't talk about solar panels. We didn't talk about EV stations. We didn't talk about, is the building all electric? So in an email I sent to them that, you know, just to respond that they seemed to be right in the wheelhouse on their meeting about what we had asked them to do. But of those other aspects, like things on the sustainability list, like EV stations, solar panels, that they're really in the jurisdiction of the planning board, which is what we discussed at 9 to 49 Homer in making those distinctions. And that things like stormwater go to Conservation Commission, as we started to, like I said, kind of Marcelo and I figuring that out back with 9 to 49 Main through the bylaw.
Yeah, what I would have taken out of it is those elements in that sustainability checklist that pertain to design is what their focus should be. Like,
Right.
if there is a solar panel on an architectural facade or the roof, it impacts the design of that project. So that's what they have, bike racks and all those. That's a checklist that, the material checklist is what they should be looking at than EV stations, I guess.
So
Yeah.
that wouldn't be ultimately, I think the process seems to sort of be working better, I think, than before I was on the board. So like, if we could pretty simply take that checklist, the sustainability checklist, and mark it, and it's purple, it goes along with these things, I think, right?
Yeah, that might be a good idea. I haven't gone back to look at the sustainability checklist and say, these things actually do fall under the bylaw, and that's a good idea to see if they kind
Yeah,
of
it's a
easily
good idea
pan
because
out.
it can become vague, right? Or like, okay,
And then occasionally, like
Supplies,
Deepa
this
said,
doesn't
we
apply.
know solar panels, because no, but it really is some oddball, right? So I'm just trying to like ultimately simplify, maybe it doesn't, that nothing, maybe ever cookie cutter completely, but to not have that.
Doesn't hurt to spell it out.
Yeah, so I'll at
and it's
least,
different when it's a renovation than when it
Yeah.
is a new construction. you know?
yeah, I'll at least, we can at least go back and take a look at the sustainability checklist and see if it easily kind of pans out that way,
Yeah.
or if it immediately gets kind of tricky and muddled.
Yeah.
But I think it's more just, it may be just like a routine of
Yeah.
going through
Mhm.
that the same thing, you know, each time. Yeah, so I just wanted to make you aware of that conversation that went back and forth just recently for the design review committee, to try to keep the process kind of streamlined and to continue a pattern that we started with 9 to 49 is what I was hoping to do. So, okay. Sustainability committee, I think we got that covered. And I don't, oh, there was something else. Wait a minute. Oh, it was, I made a note to myself under other, it was Metro West, the
Regional
communities,
Collaborative.
Metro West Communities, what was it called?
Metro West Regional Collaborative.
Regional, no, the housing around the train station.
MBTA.
Oh, MBTA.
Thank you, MBTA communities. Because it isn't on our list, but under other, we're looking at, obviously we had a break. Alvaro was away. He's back now, and so this is one of Peter and Alvaro's top priorities.
This is my top priority.
Yeah, the MBTA
Yeah.
communities.
Yes.
So we are looking at, and just yesterday we were discussing this about having maybe a kind of a forum like we did here about MBTA communities for the public to
Absolutely.
explain the regulations, explain our kind of where we are now about what we think we're going to do. It's not finalized yet because there's still a lot of questions out there, but this is what we're intending. Start to get feedback on that so we get that public discourse. We need to consult with Joe, who's also on the committee, Joe Mignani, but we were hoping that maybe at the very end of January, to still have that in January, but at the same time be moving forward with, the spreadsheets and the questions and the consultants.
Correct, yeah, we have a consultant. We did receive a grant from Mass Housing Partnership, so we do have a consultant. I've been in contact with them, however, they've been swamped, obviously, with working with all these different communities. So we talked to them before the Christmas break, holiday break, and we are in the queue. However, I'm still looking to touch base with them. And so we've had emails sent out, and so we're trying to schedule our next meeting to kind of take a look at steps and where we need to go. However, on our side, Alvaro's done a great job, working with the GIS, creating the layers, but also more importantly, getting into the state compliance model, because that's where the rubber really hits the road in understanding where our bylaws need to be edited and how our bylaws are going to affect the rate of the units per zone. And so he's doing a lot of that. Alvaro, he's back. He had a great break. And so him and I are really kind of starting to crank next week on what the compliance model looks like, changes to the bylaws that need to be made, in addition to our consultant. Our consultant was needed and required because we, the board, and the Board of Selectmen decided, if you remember, to go back and to do an economic feasibility study regarding the percentile of affordable housing units that we want to include within our bylaws, within our bylaw change. So not to rehash the entire conversation, but right now, communities are kind of getting the green light to allow for.
The meeting's still going on.
Yeah, I know. I think that's just my computer. I'm
Are you
sorry.
talking about to allow for greater than 10% affordability?
Correct.
Yeah, so the consultant is to both see if we can get greater than 10% affordability and to help us in writing a general bylaw, right?
Yeah.
Those two things.
That's funny.
I think it's great that we're getting a consultant for that, and maybe I agree with having a public forum for that, because that impacts the entire town.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. We did get an email from somebody relative to this that in my view, raised pretty good points relative to the philosophy of how this is being approached. And maybe that's one of the first items that I think should be discussed with the consultant. Because it was, from the big picture point of view, I think what I understood from that communication is, you can find ways to go around trying to comply with, but that does not address the real, or the essence of what the thing is being proposed for. It's just for compliance. And I think it's a good point. That should be.
Yeah, no,
hopefully.
I agree. I think where the working group kind of landed was, because that strip that was in part of our analysis, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of waiting, we have this comprehensive plan process going, and we have to make kind of these big decisions.
Mhm.
So trying to weigh in of, do we sit back and wait a little bit for comprehensive plan? What are our options of places we might have to include anyway to meet the requirement? And that's partly why I think the meeting comes into play too, to try to understand how the public feels about that, about more businesses, say, more mixed use at the train station in that zone. I think those are real questions to throw
The
out there.
mixed use is a little, they recently, I mean, a couple months, added that it's potential for mixed use under the MBTA communities, but I think it's really tight, and I don't think it would apply because it calls it your downtown. And it can only, right now, and again, things change, next month they might edit that again, but it says only in your downtown. And so I don't think we can say that's our downtown.
I guess we have to see what the actual rules are.
Yeah, I think the way I understood it is that you can require mixed use, but the square footage of that commercial can't be counted for residential for the units.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
It's not residential, but I think it also, I recall reading, it was pretty tight about that because that would allow them to say, well, you already have a downtown and commercial, right? They don't want you to introduce, under that law, introduce commercial somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question for Emma.
Yeah, I can reach out, but.
Yeah.
And I think that, I agree, having a consultant, we have contacts at the state, obviously.
Yeah.
And so that's a good question that we can put forward.
And the questions about that strip, I didn't mean to even go down the path of mixed use, but whether we want that to be higher density residential, that's a question for, to throw out there too, right?
Yeah.
To have in
Yeah.
that discussion.
Yeah,
So
because-
whether it's mixed use or whether it's.
Because some
Kind of
people
a
have different
point of order, because I feel like when we're getting more discussion about something that's pretty heavy in people's eyes, probably shouldn't maybe continue without being an agenda item.
Yeah,
I feel like it could be perceived as we weren't trying to be transparent, and I know that's not the case, but.
That's fine. I don't really want to go into it either. I mean, Marcelo, did you have a point that you wanted to finish though?
No, I agree with that. Not just the point that they were just rehashing what happened last meeting. There were opinions on that area.
Yeah.
And I'm just pointing it out because we got a communication relative to what was discussed. And there were opinions that may not hold when you have a big forum. So the fact of trying to open it up to have these type of discussions, I think that's the way forward.
So that was the whole point, that what we wanted to do is to hold a forum similar to what we did today on that, to really get the information
Get
out
everything
there.
on
We
the
have a
table,
lot of
yeah.
information to share and a lot of options to share, so to get that kind of feedback. All right, that's what I was trying to see. It was on my sticky, that's what I was trying to remember. Yeah, okay, so that's that. Are there any updates that we need to go over? Is there an update to 501 that needs to be?
No, there's really no update to 501. I know there was some emails going around, but at this point, I have no confirmed, Trask Development still owns the property. They still manage the permit. That permit was obviously issued a little over a year ago. And so that special permit is still live.
For how long?
So in our bylaws, it's 2 years.
So one more year?
1 more year. And so I haven't had any update from anybody that it is passed on to a new developer, and/or they've chosen not to go forward. So obviously it's still status quo at this point. Just to make note, Starbucks is continuing with construction. You can kind of see they put the roof on. They continue to get building inspections. And so that is moving forward. The next step is we are waiting for Starbucks to submit a building application for the interior of that
Fit out,
building,
yeah.
for the fit out. That actually comes from Starbucks, not the owner of the building. And so that's our next step on that project. But things are moving along smoothly over there. And those are the two big items regarding projects that are ongoing. Village of the Americas, I haven't had an update. I haven't reached out to the developer there since coming back from Christmas break, but.
That's Chestnut Street?
Chestnut Street, yes. I drove by today. It looks like things are moving along. And again, I can tell you they've been receiving building inspections obviously weekly. And so I have not had any red flags come off of that one yet. Can I move on to administrative matter B? I think everyone knows we had a new application, the Ashland Brewing LLC, doing business as Clover Road Brewing. This is for 151 Main Street. This is actually the old fire station. So at the next hearing, we're going to hear the application of that. It's for site plan review. And so we'll meet the owners, what's going on. I believe I've sent that. Have I sent that information out to everybody? No, it's going to be up online. We've sent it out to. I think we've sent it out to everybody, and so we're moving forth, and so that will be on our next agenda.
Did the Historic Commission get that? Did they know about it?
You know what? That's a great point, and I'll make sure that they go out there.
And the building is still owned by the town, right? This is a lease?
Correct. So this is a lease. The building is still owned by the town. The second floor of the building still has town property in it. And so Clover Road is going to be taking the basement from the first floor and the basement area. And they're going to have access to the second floor where there's employee bathrooms, and there's an old actually kitchen up there that the fire department used to use. And so, but this area, but the lease will cover the building, and really most important, that first floor of the truck bays. I haven't, Alvaro got back on Wednesday, and so him and I have just been playing catch up. So we'll get that up online and out to everybody, as soon as possible. So that's just been a little bit of hiccup, and we'll take care of that. And then really our next meetings. Our next meeting is January 25th, February 8th. And just as a reminder, the second meeting in February is the 5th Thursday. And it is a leap year. So to celebrate the 29th of February, we're going to have a planning board meeting. Yeah. And then other than that, I do want to mention, and I do want to thank Linda Kane. If Linda Kane is out there and watching this meeting, Linda Kane has been has produced the minutes for the Town of Ashland Planning Board for about 11 years. And so Linda Kane is moving on. I did receive a letter email before the holiday that she is resigning her post, and she wanted to thank the Planning Board and Town of Ashland, and I think the Planning Board and Tricia did with an email thank Linda for her service to the board. But I just want to publicly thank her and acknowledge the work that she's done for the board. So, and so the last 2 minutes of November 30th and December 14th were done by Linda, and I want to just thank her again. So we're starting on a clean slate.
So Trish, now you got left by Preston. Now you're left
I
by
know.
Linda.
No one likes me. Yeah, it's actually amazing that she, and I don't even know if I've ever met her, but it's amazing that she seemed determined to finish all of our meetings, like December 14th, that was our last meeting until today. So, man, kudos to her. That's just amazing. The question is, do we have someone else?
We do. So in the short term, we're gonna be taken care of, and in the long term, I think we're still ironing out that situation.
All right.
But Deepa looked like she said she wanted to do it.
Deepa really,
I could read it in her eyes. Oh, yeah. You have to buy that vowel. Yeah. Yes, we'll get you the E back.
right, so we're looking at the meeting minutes of
November 30th.
November 30th. Give Deepa 1E. Is this the one that I had given you just a couple things? I don't remember what they were, though. It was very minor.
I think a yes.
Do you want to put a reference on line 54? Ms. Kendall asked about item E, concierge signage or concerning signage. Is that like, are we attaching the report to record what item E is about?
Oh, we can attach the,
I don't know if there's a simpler way to do it, but,
Or would you just say item E?
item E concerning.
or just elaborate what item E was. I don't know if that's easier.
So yeah, item E was just to present a generic indication of signage locations. So we could say item E regarding indication of signage locations or something like that. Just to give it to give a little indication of what it was about. Otherwise, I don't think I had any changes.
Line 98, can I have a TP?
Oh, jeez. No, this is what is the game show? Can I have a T? Can I have it? E? Yes. That's like,
98.
yes. She's Venka.
Gotcha.
Does anyone have any comments on November 30th, or do you need more time?
Ready for a motion?
Yeah, I think so.
Make a motion to accept the November 30th, 2023 planning board meeting minutes with the small edits mentioned.
I second.
Roll call vote.
Marcelo Ron, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. Okay, on to December 14th. Deepa's name again. There is one last name missing on line 101. I don't know if that would be on the tape. Tell me when everyone's good.
Yep, good.
So just that last name?
Yeah, and Deepa's name in the attendance.
I got
Otherwise.
Deepa's name. And I'll go back to the table and try to pull that.
Yeah, otherwise
If I can.
just seems like the only one missing.
Okay.
Are you good, Kate? Okay. All right, is there you want to make another motion, Kate?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 14th meeting minutes.
Second that.
We'll do it as amended.
As amended, yeah.
All right, roll call vote.
Deepa Venkata.
Marcelo Arjona, aye.
Catherine Jersey, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. Does anyone have any further, anything to add at the end of the evening?
We did get in writing from the 320 pond to extend to March 1st. I saw the one for 9 to 49 Homer, but
Yeah, it was it was on the last meeting. We have it.
oh, I'm only saying because we just read the minutes that said February 9th, so I got worried. The minutes that we just read said we extended it to February 9th.
Oh, to February, okay.
And someone said they saw it. I didn't see it, but I'm fine if you all saw it, that it's extended to March 1st.
You,
There was a discussion, I seem to remember, we started to put one date and then said, no, let's make sure that we cover everything and then let's move too much.
With the minutes, we just voted said February 9th.
Oh, then we should do that.
That's what I got worried about.
So this continuance is stamped on December 13th. So in the second paragraph, or do you want me to read it from the top?
read the important part, I guess.
I'll read the important. Well, therefore, it seems prudent to extend the time for a reasonable period that would allow for the board to take final action without need for further extension. Accordingly, this letter will constitute an agreement by the applicant, WJK Homer LLC, to extend said time until March 1st, 2024, if necessary.
She's talking about 320 Pond.
Oh, 320, sorry. 320 Pond.
Because these meeting minutes say we're extending till February 9th.
Correct, and now today's meeting minutes, we're gonna extend it further out to March 1st. So there was a new continuance.
Yeah, but we, so when it came up, I said, subject, I wanted to put a friendly amendment, and you said, no, we don't need to, it's in writing. And I'm fine with it, but I'm just
Well,
confused.
at that meeting, yes, we moved it to February 9th. However, at the continuance memo that we accepted,
That's the one we did,
Now
okay.
you have a documentation for March 1st. And we wrote
No, that's fine, I just, yeah, that's,
Take final action.
So, and this is from Josh Klein, okay, Chase Bank.
So we didn't,
Oh, this came after that, so. Okay. So we're good.
Yeah.
yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was confused on projects.
Okay, so, so any announcements, anything else hanging out there that we need to address? All right, so Kate and I will do that one little response letter thing.
yeah, I'm sure I'll tweak it, and I missed something, but that's why I wanted to help, but it's simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
either if you can read my writing.
Yep.
And Peter and I will work on that list.
Yeah,
For-
I'll get together with you on that list.
Yeah, and we'll get that out so that everyone has it and can respond to it. Otherwise, I think we're good. Right?
Will the sustainability team come back with milestones for the tree bylaw?
I think I'm just gonna, I think they just have to meet with their committee and decide kind of how they wanna, because there was a lot that got dumped out there. Yeah.
Okay.
So. Certainly not the end of that discussion.
It's a tough discussion.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It
There's
is.
some clear buckets that needed attacked, so I think they were very clear. There was a pattern in the conversation that I think it's easier if you just boil it down to those 3-4 topics that.
Yeah, so we'll see, I'll take a breather and then see where it goes next. All right.
Honestly, I will say, has been working very hard on it for the last couple months, and,
It's come a long way.
it's come a long way, and it's a very tricky bylaw, because it's not just about a tree, right? It also reaches into, and I think it is a property rights, because.
Don't go too deep here, Peter, we're
Yeah.
trying to end the meeting.
So, a lot of things to think of.
Yeah.
No rabbit hole.
Make a motion to stop Peter.
Do I have a second? All right, so I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:33. Second?
Second that.
Roll call vote.
Deepa Venkatai.
Marcelo, aye.
Catherine Jersey.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. All right, thanks, everybody.